And if that wouldn't have been the third time he made that promise.
Yeah, the promises were on us. The promises are out of control.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Volume 1, the anime and manga podcast where we review the first volume of a brand new manga each week. My name is Josh, the Lala Michaels, and today, as always, I am joined by
Megan Cisperine.
Cody Robo Squid Dragon Decker.
Okay. Feel like a little more thought could have gone into it, but thank you for tuning into another episode of Volume 1. Today, we are putting an emphasis on the anime and manga podcast, and we're throwing it back to a nostalgic classic and talking about Now and Then, Here and Now, which is a mouthful, and I'm
And not what it's called.
Not what it's called.
So two things.
Yeah, now and then, here and there.
It is kind of tricky.
It's a mouthful.
It's NTHT.
I just say now and then.
Yeah, but I want to pay you respects.
Well,
you know,
then say it right.
Now and then, here and there. It's so hard to get this right. Or as I like to say, now and then, here we go, because we're about to unpack this series.
Wow.
This is a series that was recommended to us by our lovely co-host, Mr. Cody Decker. Cody, I have some facts and a synopsis for anybody who is unfamiliar with this series. But Cody, why don't you tell the people why this is something you wanted to talk about and possibly what it even means to you?
After I watched some isekai, I think it was one of the ones where they don't explain why. I watched the first episode of ReZero, and something that bugs me is
Great anime.
And I just don't like the fact that they just walk down the street and they're there. And I was just researching what even isekai is. And then it was just like, one of the original isekai stories is called Now and Then, Here and There. And it's a much darker take on it. And that was just interesting to me, that one of the first stories that does it is sort of like what you would think would come later after all these lighthearted stories. But like the fun stories came after.
Yeah.
I thought that was like really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at like isekai as a genre. Obviously, it's become and evolved into something completely different. I mean, and even if you look back at even series like Digimon, technically that's an isekai. But this is obviously something that is very heavy, a lot more serious in tone.
I was told that there was content in it. I was like, that sounds interesting that they would cover that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, based off of the cover, I really had no idea of what I was in for.
A boy in a stick.
Never heard anything
I
about
never
it?
heard anything about it. Like Cody mentioned it once or twice and I was like, what is this? And I looked it up and I still had no idea at all what it was about, or I've never heard of it, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. For some reason, I think I had maybe heard of it, but when I looked it up, I had never seen it. And looking it up is a whole nother side of this series. But what I do want to talk about really quick is just some information before we start going too heavy into it, because there are some things I want to talk about. This was a series that was released in 1999, and it was actually directed by Akitaro Daichi, who directed Fruits Basket, which is what I think.
Yes, I did do my research on that as well. And the studio is AIC, which is like a bunch of heavy hitters. I mean, they've been doing anime for a long time, but like some of my favorites, like Neon Koi, which is like a really, if you know, like Oh My Goddess, which is like a huge one. Data Live, a bunch of different ones. But I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was happy I found out that this guy did things that you guys liked, because then I found out
I know what you're going to say
about him.
And then it was revealed to me
Wait, what do you mean?
About him or about a different person?
Well, I guess, both.
Well, because I found out some things about a different person who was the writer of this, and it made it very clear why this series would be something that Cody would enjoy or want to discuss. Cody, are you familiar with what I might be getting at?
Well, now I hope I'm not.
What?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you found out, but I also found out, and we'll get to whatever information you have. But,
oh, no.
But it was also written by Hideyuki Kurata. And this guy has credits for screenwriting on series like Read or Die, which is a series that I absolutely love. I think it's an OVA. It's amazing. Made in Abyss. And he has a screenwriting credit for Goblin Slayer.
No freaking way.
Yeah. It was revealed that this is why. I thought that's why.
Well,
Everything is Goblin Slayer.
Well, everything's
Everything is
Goblin
Goblin
so we're gonna work that phrase. But yeah, dude, this is the legitimately a combination of Goblin Slayer and Fruits Basket.
Which is
Okay, that is the furthest thing that this is from. I would say it's Waterworld meets Fifth Element meets what was the other one?
The famous anime and mangas.
Waterworld meets Fifth Element meets Studio Ghibli.
It did have a little bit of Studio Ghibli vibes, maybe some Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
It's been compared to Dune a little bit for also it's sort of like
It's a
guess
desert.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I guess anything with a desert.
Sometimes things I'll see like, oh, it's like this. I'm like, that's kind of a stretch.
What were you gonna say? What information did you have about
Well,
this?
now I feel like I'm going to
fella, or one of
spoil
these
the
fellas?
fun for you guys.
Spoil the
boy.
fun. What do you mean?
There was a controversy with the director,
Oh, how recently or
like 2019.
Man, I don't want to.
That's why I was like, you were gonna drop it, but he's gonna drop it. It's just
Yeah,
gonna
I
break
thought I
my
had
heart.
the bombs to drop today. I mean,
We
is
can.
It, is
it's
it bad?
Not, it's. I mean,
It's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
It's not.
It's bad.
It's not like a game. But we can. I'll tell it at the end. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Well, no, I want it out of the way.
Oh, okay. The director was just like accused of being like pretty like weird and like pushy and
Oh,
harassment.
man.
Yeah, which is the thing. Like, oh well, you covered. Which I was happy. It's not the writer because then it's like that doesn't. It's not the story's fault or anything.
Yeah, when are people just gonna get their shit together?
Never.
And
How about now and there? How about here? Yeah.
It's also been compared to Grave of the Fireflies. I didn't want to forget that either. Grave of the Fireflies is another beautifully sad anime movie that's about children in war.
Yeah.
And,
In general, honestly, it was kind of like a vibe. Like I was telling Cody, like this feels more of like a movie to me than like watching it in episodes.
I absolutely agree.
And honestly, if it was cut into more of a movie format, it might be like
The greatest thing of all time.
Yeah, no, I really love it like episodically, but honestly, if it was all cut together, it would have been like
What I
Yeah.
love about it being episodic is the OP is one that I deeply appreciate, which is it just shows you the character and their name.
Do you think that OP fits though?
I mean, kind of.
It has like some salsa, like dun-dun, like a
Yeah,
guitar,
I
Spanish
think
guitar.
I think that's supposed to be the vibe of like it had a very 80s vibe
Yeah.
feel to
Yeah.
me. Like the music had that synth, that like build up music that you would see like the title would like light up and like
Yeah.
having a character, here's their face, here's their name, and then the voice actors, that helps so much if you're watching something.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because they didn't want to. I mean, the spoilers and OPs are the worst of all time.
And you can't really, spoilers for the emotional journeys of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I grew to like the OP and even the ED.
The
but,
ED, I think, felt better.
the only other piece of information.
Every time I
that
hear
thought-
Oyasumi, I
know.
just think of Megan.
Oyasumi at the end every time. I was like, man, this song's making me want to go Oyasumi right now.
I know.
But it's a beautiful song. This other little tidbit, Josh's History Corner, welcome back. We haven't been here in a while. It's also thought to have been inspired by, some of the events of the Rwanda genocide.
Not only is it thought, the creator said it was.
See, I was looking for an exact interview or article where he had said it explicitly, but I couldn't find it. But if you're saying that, I trust you. I believe you.
Then I think we just read the same thing that says like he said it, and the opposite ends is I see that I'm like, oh, he must have said that then.
Yeah, and I really wanted to make sure, but I mean everything does seem to kind of
it's definitely a commentary on like warlords and child soldiers.
Yeah, because and by the way, just some interesting an interesting horrible sad piece of information is like it's about the said to kind of be inspired by that event, which was the 100 Days of Genocide, which is where 800,000 people were slaughtered in Rwanda. And it's crazy because this series does deal with genocide, and it came out in 1999, and this event was in 1994. So it not only covers like similar themes or has similar themes or has similarities, but it also like the years in which the event happened and this came out, it kind of lines up. And this series does, by the way, deal with some very real things and really tough things. And
and based off the first episode, if you're looking for a classic little shonen story about the best kendo kid you're ever gonna meet, it's not that. So don't keep watching if you think it's gonna be that.
Yeah. The first episode, even the first, does not imply the tone of the story.
No,
man. I mean,
It implies a wildly different tone of the
no,
story.
yeah. It's like I'm gonna be the best. You have a rival already.
Mm-hmm.
You have someone he's trying to get love for. You have his family dynamic, and I was just like,
Something
when does this take a turn?
I thought was fun is that writing thing that you and me have like read about, like, and one of the things to say is like, you know, what would your worst enemy say about this person?
Mm-hmm.
And they have a character like sort of like say like this is what's wrong with you scene.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, dude. We are going to break it down, but I want to talk about, while I thought, and I recognize that this is a classic, and for a lot of people, it might make you feel nostalgic. But you know, I do think that even though something can be really well done, that it is still okay to have your personal critiques of it. And we will get into that because, like, with that character, and you're talking about like things being wrong with him, like there were things about him as a protagonist.
Oh, there were multiple issues with those.
Yeah, that I was not really super in love with.
Well, yeah, I have my points as well.
I do want to say though, before we start diving into it too, if you haven't seen it and you want to watch it, we're going to give you a little synopsis to see if it's something that interests you. I think this is going to be a fun conversation regardless. But if you do want to watch it, first of all, good luck. It's very hard to find. You might have to just buy it on Amazon.
Yeah, they have it on Amazon Prime for like
$20 for the first season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shout out Amazon Prime.
Yeah, shout out Amazon Prime.
Want to sponsor us?
Yeah, you know,
whatever.
Really, yeah.
Just an email or something.
Yeah, give us a free, you know, I don't know, give us a free
Amazon.
Yeah,
give us a free Amazon.
Give us free cardboard boxes, dude. I don't care.
Anything at this point.
Legitimately be cool.
Yeah. So the synopsis for this series is Now and Then, Here and There follows a young boy named Shuzo who, in an attempt to save an unknown girl, is transported to another world, which may be the Earth in the far future, which I don't know. The world is desolate and militarized. Survival is a daily struggle for displaced refugees, and water is a scarce commodity. That's a good synopsis, because I do feel like it tells you sort of like where the story ends up going, because like you were saying from the first episode, you're kind of thrown for a loop. You end up getting a show that is nothing like anything you see in the entire first episode.
Yeah, and it's just like every episode kind of ends on a cliffhanger of just like dread and despair.
I did expect a turn for the character to take multiple times, and then it became like, okay, it's not about him changing.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the point.
Which is funny because that was one of my biggest issues that I had with this character, is that, and I do want to have a conversation sort of around that too. Cody, I think off mic had asked, maybe on mic, if I tend to gravitate towards stories that involve character more or plot more, and I always,
or just what connects you more,
or what I'm connected to more. And I would say I'm connected to characters more than I am plot. And I don't know, don't come at me if this is something that you love, but the main character felt like a plot vehicle.
Yeah, there's a term called a pinball protagonist, and it's definitely debatable if he's a vehicle to explore the world.
See, I don't feel that at all. I felt it was very much warranted of his reaction as a child to what's going on, because like he's taking everything like seriously, but like not serious enough, like to the point where it's like, okay, like there has to, this is on purpose. Like,
it was the point that he didn't degrade.
There's characters that I've seen that do that, where it's just a plot vehicle, but I just think he's more than that. I think it's him being unshaken and him really being the positive light in this horrible world.
Yeah, but coming from a kid, his positivity came across as naivety.
I mean, there's a lot of elements of that. Like characters, majority of them like have like a childlike like innocence, but there's different aspects for their characters. Like I pointed out, like I did some notes, but I just feel like a lot of them do have that personality trait of like, oh, this is what this character like. That's the childlike aspect of them. Or like,
basically, I wasn't on board for it until like for him as a character, until there's a scene of like you're crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
like I'm not the crazy one. You're crazy for being okay with this, and that's when I started to get on board for him.
I do feel like
but it was annoying in the beginning.
I mean, it was annoying for me the whole time, because again, and I, you can't have those characters that serve that purpose, and if you're doing it, especially for a purpose, and that was your intention, then that's one thing. And I mean, I don't think he reacted like a normal kid would react who is being thrust into another world. I think that to stick so true to your morals, I mean, in the face of death and in the face of all these things, when and again, this is not to say that I had a problem with the series in its entirety, but this is just a small thing, is that, he has this whole monologue in the first episode on top of this smoke tower that overlooking his town. And he, I don't want to compare problems, and everybody has their struggle, but, he seemed to have like a pretty okay life. So for him to then go into this other world where people are dealing with very real things, and to be like, everything is going to be okay. It's like, how you don't know anything.
That was where like I expected him initially to go in and like learn and him to like be affected by the world, which I would have preferred. And then as I sort of accept that, like, well, that's not what it's about, and it's about how like he does like he is like, part of like the childhoodness is like, oh, I don't, what happened to you? You got taken away. I'm sure you're fine. Well, everything's gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, honestly, I thought it was going to bug me more than it did. And it ended up just being like just me accepting it for the character. And then the ending kind of solidified that for me, because we'll talk about it. But I was just like, that's this. Like, it didn't bug me to the point where I was like, oh my God, this kid's so stupid. It was just like,
he gets a moment like at the end that I'm like, I kind of expected that by episode 3.
I, think that it's very fitting that we're having this conversation now, because it is staying in the realm of being like a spoiler-free discussion. Mm-hmm. So I think, yeah. What's up?
Just a side note, this is the one thing I've seen. I'm like, this is definitely better to watch the sub.
The sub, you think?
Because the voices sound too mature in the English dub. In the sub, they sound much more childlike, and I feel like that adds to the effect of like, these are children. Mm. So this is the only time I felt like, oh, you are losing something by hearing these different voices.
I really enjoyed the dub. I think dubs of that era, of that time, are notorious for being not the best.
But it's just for the, you're like, okay, I accept this because it's in 1999.
Yeah, it was still pretty good.
Yeah,
I watched the dub, but I would just switch to the sub every now and then, because I don't want to watch subtitles.
Yeah.
So like, I'll listen to the dub, but I like check to see what the voice acting was like. I did prefer that.
Yeah.
And I did think there was an element that just was not captured in the English dub.
I mean, Sarah, like, her dub actress, she's my fucking favorite. Yeah. But her voice actress was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah,
she killed it. She
was on a completely different level than any of the other voice actors.
No, also a character-wise too. Sarah in general, like I could talk about Sarah all day, but
I would have loved this show to be called Sarah.
Yeah,
and all 13 episodes to be about Sarah.
But I mean, the main thing about Shu is like, I get that he is propels the story just because he's there and it's showing the world, but also I mean he does influence a lot of characters and their choices.
That's what was part of what I think was supposed to be the deconstruction element, is like, which we saw a little bit in Konosuba, which we just watched.
It's fantastic. We watched 2 episodes. I couldn't be happier.
Part of the humor that I liked was this. They play it up for the joke of like, you go to the alternate world and it's like, well, you have nothing to like really influence things. So part of it being like, he does the most he can do, which is not much.
And look, like, we get another character who came from the exact same place and was in the exact same sort of position that he was, who was far more interesting. And I think that's the thing about either a pinball protagonist or a plot vehicle. It's when you're surrounded by characters that are way more interesting and that have so much more depth and are overcoming so much more adversity.
There was a scene that cuts away from her, and I'm like, oh, so we'll see the rest of that. I'm like, oh, I guess that wasn't the point. Okay.
Yeah, I was way more invested in what she was going through, because she was actually going through things. She was actually experiencing an arc.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a character chasing after another character because I don't know why. He completely Okay, Lallaroo. Okay, can I talk about fucking Lallaroo?
Lallaroo, go ahead.
The worst character.
Just as long as we keep it a little spoilery free, which I think we are so far.
But the worst. She never got redeemed for me. I couldn't care less about what she was doing or like her relationship. Like I didn't care. I was like, she never gave anything to me. And I understand it's like, oh, deadpan type character, but she did nothing.
Again, I think
towards the end
for me that like her backstory of how she became this version of who she is more interesting than who she actually is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they only give you the couple of things that made her like interesting, like
barely
right near the end. I'm like, oh, I guess that does explain this part.
And that's
And the annoying part for me was his just like dead on obsession with her and how he has to say her full name
all the time.
Everyone does.
That was really the most logically straining part for me. Was like he's like I gotta go. He's like in a daze like la la roo la. I'm like you didn't even talk to her.
I mean, it's just his connection, his only connection, the only thing he knows what's going on in the world. That makes sense because like, okay, I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen to me or what's going to happen, but I know this person got me here. So maybe if I get back to her and save whatever.
As one of our Discord members coined the podcast, the Volume Pun podcast, I think it's fitting now to say that all Shu cares about is sticking up for Lala Roo. Yeah, because he carries a stick the entire series.
You know, like
that's a shoo-in.
Ken don't say any more puns.
Yes, he practices kendo, by the way.
In episode 1 and Never Again, and then I think that's why he carries a stick.
I thought that stick is sturdy.
Yeah, yeah. What's it made out of? What kind of wood is that? Yeah.
Probably mahogany.
Good one, Cody.
So yeah, there you know, I don't know how much of it is like, oh, you know, it's old and like storytelling. There was also a lot of parts where I can tell like, so that's an animation budget cut.
Sure.
I don't know if there's a term for that when they just cut away to like the person who's talking, you just see the back of their head.
Yeah, this was paced incredibly slow, and I think intentionally to a certain extent, but there is undeniably also they're working within a budget. And
a drinking game would be take a shot every time you can like clearly tell that they were like, let's just not animate.
Oh no, a better one: drink every time you hear Lala Roo.
You will die by episode
poisoning. Yeah.
Bring it on.
That's not even. I was starting to do the math.
If anybody wants to play that game, go right ahead and let us know how that ends up.
Go one-on-one with me.
Took a sip of beer every time he said Lala Roo, you will be dead by the end of the season.
No, yeah, you'll just collapse. Your liver will fail you, and it'll be over.
Lala Roo.
I do think that again,
that is I guess a nice sounding name to hear over and over again. Maybe
it gets drilled into my subconscious.
All meaning to me as a word.
Yeah. That's why I think, I mean, I don't know, maybe it would have been different if she was introduced differently or had any substance whatsoever until like you find out more about her. You're kind of in the dark about what is going on with her. Mm-hmm. And I would have liked if I had that information a little bit sooner, or she kind of explained that to him or said anything at all. Cause that's
the thing. The redeeming qualities of this show to me are the other characters. I mean, not Shu and not Lala Roo, who are unfortunately at the forefront, Shu more of this series, but like, Alamba, like the guy who was the leader of the radicals, like had such an interesting story that was revealed.
That speech he gives.
Yeah, dude, I was like, that monologue was so good. I could see someone in an acting class doing that monologue.
I mean, yeah,
it was so
powerful.
And it was so like after that, like all the things he does, I'm like, oh, I get why.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I don't like you, but I completely understand that this is like a person.
Nabuka, Boo,
yes,
freaking, what was her name? Sarah, like all of the Sis,
Sis, yeah, but I mean, even again, like the villains, like Hamdo
oh my God.
Abelia. I mean, they were also very just like kind of stiff, and Hamdo was like a sort of just cut out of a caricature of your typical like villainous character.
I would have to argue with there. I've never seen a villain as brutal and manic, and I've never seen it. Any anime ever, honestly. Like that was the most insane character I've ever seen in my fucking life. Like it was so played well.
He kept reminding me of Gary Oldman from Fifth Element.
That's what I said. It's Fifth Element meets Waterworld meets Studio Ghibli.
Yeah,
that's the title.
It was he felt different than like villains. But like not like completely different. It's definitely like I've seen like elements of this, but there was this weird thing where it'd be like kind of funny, and then it would get like really like this like tragic thing, like, oh, this guy has lost his mind.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I never felt like he was really super crazy. I never felt like he was a real threat. And the fact that anybody would ever listen to him, he was clearly constantly putting everybody in danger and making bad calls left and right.
The fun part of that is it's like, well, that's not unrealistic.
it's not unrealistic, but I mean, the show
know.
gave no reason for anybody listening to him. Like he wasn't even a powerful person. He was always cowering and in fear, and relying on other people to do his dirty work.
I don't understand why anyone would like follow him. Why he has so many soldiers and like, well, we just gotta listen to King Hamdo. I'm like, you guys can take over his ass. And
as Americans, we wouldn't understand the power that the title of a king can have over like a culture.
But he's not a.
Well, he is a king. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's called King Hamdo. Yeah.
He was a king.
Yeah.
Don't look at me like that. I didn't know that he was called King Hamdo.
No, I saw a joke written on the wall.
You're such a.
Yeah, we have we pitch jokes on the wall up here.
I didn't see any because you guys aren't funny.
That's hurtful.
Got him.
But I mean,
you truly did.
This series is redeemed by its surrounding cast. I think its surrounding cast are super interesting, and they asked questions that I wanted answers to, and not in a plot sense, but in a moral sense. Like the whole thing with Ilamba, like I wanted them to explore that a little bit more. I wanted Shu to have to like deal with that more, and we'll get into like specifically what his speech was about. But it's like Shu is so naively optimistic that at times it makes him feel like dumb. And
I mean, he is dumb.
He's
pretty dumb.
The closer you get to the climax, the more it is like, you really aren't picking up any signs here.
Yeah, you really aren't willing to. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to say it without offending people who love this series, but it's how I felt watching it, and it doesn't mean I don't like it.
I didn't hate him as much as I did like in the beginning. Like as it went on, I was sort of like, oh, like I get like what the story is and why he's like what role he's serving in it.
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit too about, we can save this part of the conversation for after because it doesn't have to do directly with the series, but how, and then an alternate title that I wrote for this video is an isekai without a Lady Aqua, but with an Aqua Lady. Because Lady Aqua from Konosuba, you know.
So now we know that's clever wordplay.
Wow.
And thank you. And speaking of Aqua ladies, it did have a sense of weathering with you a little bit.
I was thinking about the because it's because of what it's about.
Exactly. And so we can save that for the end, but I think there are some similarities, and I think, I think Weathering with You did some really interesting things.
I was like, by episode like 7, I was like, we should do something on Weathering with You.
It's fantastic, Megan. We should all watch it together.
Have you seen Weathering with You?
It's beautiful. Boy. It's beautiful. You're in for a real treat. All right, so we can start breaking it down now, and we'll have more conversation as we get deeper and deeper into the series. Obviously beware of some spoilers. I do think that I do think that you can listen to this and watch the series and kind of gauge if these things are something that or just to get a feel for. I guess what I'm trying to say is like I don't think we're going to necessarily like ruin things because it's a series that's been out for a long time, and I think that you can get something different from it. Everybody can get something different from it, but just beware. And if you want to watch it before, you can come back. But like I said, good luck. I'll loan you $20 if you really want to watch it.
Be sure to follow him up on that.
20 people. Josh, please give me.
You are now bankrupt.
I just lost all my money. All right. So episode 1 is just him, and it's only 13 episodes. At a kendo match. He's at a kendo match, and he's losing, and he's already set up to be a plucky protagonist who's like, I want to be the best. Kind of. He's got I want to be the best kind of energy.
Yeah, you get the scene of him like waking up and like, breakfast is amazing, which is why I thought it was going to lean into like breaking him down more because thanks mom, thanks family, I love you all. I'm like, oh yes, you never do that if you're going to play it straight.
Yeah, and he talked about how he was so excited about like meeting this girl or something.
Confessing to her, if I win this kendo match, I'm going to confess my love.
And again, I thought there was going to be so many times in an isekai, what you'll get is someone not knowing how to deal with something in their real life. And so they are transported to this other world where they're put into a different situation and they have to deal with things that will help them overcome or deal with the things that they were struggling with back home. I don't feel like anything that this set up had anything to do with what happened when he got isekai.
And even the ending too just solidifies that. It's just like, well,
yeah,
that was the thing is like, he loses and then his crush is like dating the guy who beat him, which I thought was a nice one.
I thought they were like brother and sister.
Oh no, I think that was the girl that was like into, he was into her and then she was into his like rival.
They looked very similar, so I was like, are they related? I don't know. Maybe.
No, I think they were banging more than kendo sticks.
Oh my god.
No. Because he gets a thing from the guy who beats him, which is like you go in without a plan, you go in straight forward and you attack. And so like that was either like which it turned out that was just to tell you like this is how he operates.
Mhm.
Whereas I assume that was to show like, oh, so eventually he's going to not do that, which did not turn out to be the way.
With the style of
yeah
fighting, yeah.
It was to establish that that's how he is as a person.
Yeah, he's never changing. He is.
So I don't.
He's Shu.
He's, unapologetically.
He's Shu.
So I don't know if it is like, well, being one of the first stories, if like, if a writer like after them, like, wouldn't it be cool if he didn't do that? So like, if this is like one of the establishing stories, I don't know if you have to like give it a little bit of like leeway in that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I'm not saying again, like, it didn't serve a purpose. It could have just as simply served the purpose that it is showing you who he is and who he will be for 13 episodes. And if that's the case, then that's fine. But he loses. He's kind of like up on a smokestack, and he sees. And these smokestacks, by the way, are very high up.
Yeah, and he's like, I used to climb these all the time. I'm like, you should not be doing that. Do your parents know that you're doing that?
Yeah, he's way up
because
there.
you will die.
You only did things. You never climbed things, or?
I mean, it's pretty much a building sized.
It's higher than a building.
You climb
It
trees.
is the highest point in the
town.
I climbed the water tower.
A
Yeah.
water
it
tower is
is
at
the-
least like, you got more room.
I mean,
But-
there was a part where he almost just fell.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that part was hilarious. Totally anime 90s moment when he like literally is off to the fucking smokestack and then he's like, okay, defies physics and goes back. I'm like, you would fucking
Well, I mean, he
die.
did end up falling later, like pretty far.
Yeah, he did. He's fallen a lot.
Yeah, he gets wrecked.
He gets wrecked.
But he sees another girl who looks to be his same age on a smokestack next to him, and he's trying to talk to her. And at first, I couldn't tell if he just couldn't hear her,
Or she
if-
just wasn't talking.
Yeah, if she was just not talking, because she's just mouthing things, and he's trying to guess. And that goes on for a while. And
There is like, borderline comedy bit. I don't know if it was, maybe it was a comedy bit.
I don't know.
Where he's just like saying every like noise and like waiting for like a confirmation. And he like guesses his way to her name, which is
a crazy guess. How would you ever guess that name?
Yeah, and her name is La La Rue.
Yeah, if you didn't get that.
If you didn't get that, you wail by the end of this episode because wow. And it looks very sad. She's up there. She's sort of just kind of pondering. She's like, they're looking at the sunset, I think.
I like that he was like, what are you looking at? And they're both just facing the sunset on a beautiful like ocean, like the mountains and
Beautiful view.
clouds.
Yeah.
And like what could you possibly be looking at while we're up here?
Yeah, and he gives her this speech about how
Throw stuff at her to get her attention,
Yeah.
which does work.
Okay, don't do that. And he is giving her the speech about the people in the town and how they are really nice people. And I thought it was a charming speech because he says like, I hit a baseball through that guy's window and he was mad, but he didn't like. I don't know. He's basically telling her that there are people in this city that are this village or town that are upset and frustrated, but that are genuinely kind
Which
people.
is a huge theme
Yeah.
throughout the anime.
Yeah, and I wish, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway.
I
Yeah,
could see your struggle with like
Yeah.
you're on a teeter rope.
I think
Yeah.
it's because like he's just an optimistic protagonist,
Yeah.
and I mean that just might not cotton to that.
I was really thinking about
Because
it.
in general, like I prefer like protagonists who like will break down at some point and then rebuild themselves from there.
But
Me
that's
too.
why I found it so refreshing to see a character not do that, because we constantly see that with like Subaru. We constantly see that with all these isekai protagonists, and then they buckle themselves up and like deal with the problems. But he was just like, I'm going through the problems and I'm still okay.
I mean, ReZero to me is still the most realistic like attempt at what would happen if a kid got transported to a fantasy world. The way Subaru deals with things is crazy. And just for the optimistic protagonist sort of comment, I tried to compare him to other protagonists. And like, I know this might seem out of place in this conversation, but like in the very beginning of Naruto, which was my introduction into anime, like Naruto is very much a like, I want to be the best and no one's going to stop me, no matter how mean everybody is, no matter how many people like spit on me, and no matter how many people, hate me or say that I'll never be that, I'm going to be that. And he doesn't budge. It later becomes a story about really kind of friendship and a beautiful story of that. But at least with him, like there was this internal struggle of like, people hate me and I am not who people think I am. And why I want to be the best is because I'm going to prove them wrong. And with Shu, he just never gave me a good enough reason for being optimistic.
He is every shonen protagonist right before their family dies, and then their eyes go crazy, and they go, "What?
Yeah.
My family? But what is the demon essence has absorbed into me, and I'm gonna become the #1 demon king?"
I just think it exceeded his character exceeded my expectations. Not saying that he was the greatest character, but I was expecting the classic. In the second episode, him just completely unraveling or like at some point completely breaking down, which you see a little cry moment, but I was expecting it to go really south and it never did. And I was like, okay. And I kind of needed that, to be honest, because it's dark. There's really no hope except for Shu.
That's sort of what he brings into that world, which did become charming for me. Like it took me a bit to be on the side of it. I wasn't like as on board as Megan was,
and I could be really looking too into it, but I think it's okay to be optimistic, even blindly optimistic. But I feel like he wasn't being very empathetic. He was just like, people were going through really tough things.
He didn't understand it.
So shut up.
He couldn't. He really couldn't understand it. Like he says in another speech, he's like, I don't know what you're going through, but it's gonna be okay.
And if that would have been the third time he made that promise.
The promises are out of control. You can't promise anything, dude. Yeah. In this world, you don't know what's going on. How can you make promises?
The contribution to the overall theme, I think, would be, where if it is, definitely core, at the very least, parallels between the real life like warlords and child soldiers would be that like, that attitude of like, we can just like, we'll sign these petitions and that's gonna stop it.
It's almost like, and this is like maybe a very bad analogy, but it's almost like, someone in a war-torn country, a child soldier who's been through things that you can't even imagine. And then like, a middle-class American just like being teleported there and seeing, either a victim of like, just a victim of war and just getting like, why are you so sad? Like everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. His final speech made it like easier to stomach that. But I'm also like, if it is an allegory, I do think that is the purpose that he's supposed to have.
Well, like the whole first promise that he makes, I'm like, okay, it's just another kid trying to make another kid feel okay about the situation that's at hand.
He still doesn't get the situation.
Okay,
it takes him so long to figure out how bad things are.
Yeah. I don't get why he picked one or the other, one over the other. But hey, we can talk.
So just to kind of jump around quickly, because I think the interesting parts of the conversation are like talking about the characters and not as much the plot, but for the sake of going through the plot. Lalaru sitting on top of the smokestack, and all of a sudden, through some sort of like portal or energy orb,
everything slows down except for a sphere around them.
This like these people come from another place, another world, another dimension on these like mechanical dragons, and they're in these like mech suits. And
which I like the design of the suits.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah,
very video gamey. You hit them at the top, and then they get a shield. You have to hit them again.
Yeah, and I thought that they were cool. I want to talk about the world, and I want to talk about the things in the world. But
okay, but you don't want to talk about the mecha dragons?
The mecha dragons look cool, but we really don't get to see them that often. A lot of also my issues, and it's not an issue. I want to take that back, but is that this story really didn't have a lot of interest, and it's okay. It doesn't have to, but it didn't have a lot of interest in like exploring the world at all. It didn't, it just like, it really didn't go into like the complexities of either the technology or how the civilization has gotten to the point that it's at, or like how these people of power became to be in power. They are sort of just the Empire in Star Wars, where it's just like, they're just the big bads.
The Millennium Falcon, which is just, Hollywood.
Hollywood, which is a whole other thing. And that is totally fine, by the way.
That's what we call LA.
That's what we call LA from the real Californians.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywood Boulevard, am I right?
Too sure.
But yeah, it's fine. Not every story has to do that, especially if they want to focus on other things. But I did think the world was interesting. I would have liked to at least like have a little more information on it. Having said that, they come through. Her name is Abelia. Abelia comes through and is like, I finally found you, LaLaRue, and you're the real LaLaRue. You're coming with us. And Shu's trying to stop them by jumping down and running down the dragon. And
he is very indestructible. They cannot get a hold of this little kid. He's like thrown, and then he's like on top of the things, and he's hitting people with sticks. And I'm like, they can just shoot this kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, he's falling down pipes and jumping back up.
Yeah.
Because she like mouthed "help me." Which
Yeah.
I think I don't even know if she said that.
I think he thinks she said that.
Yeah.
So not only did he just meet this person moments ago, but he thinks she's asking for help. So he goes to rescue her, and they end up like capturing her, and he gets caught in the orb that transports them all back to their world, and now he's in this other place.
Got a point for me for explaining an isekai situation.
Yeah, I really thought it was gonna be like that whole orb was gonna like completely just demolish Earth or something. Like I thought that it was gonna be like, oh, this is his reality now. I didn't think he would be taken out of because I didn't really know it was an isekai to begin with.
Yeah, I think a lot of isekais do go out of their way to explain why they're there. I think maybe not everyone does for sure, but a lot of isekai that I've come across like do have an explanation as to like how they got there, why they're there. At least the ones that I've read, not all of them, but a lot of them. And this was a fine reason to have him be where he's at now, because I did think about why he needed to be isekai'd. I did think like, why was that important to the story? Why couldn't he have been from Hollywood or been from this place? And I think, and I could be very wrong, but I think I have an answer. But we'll get to that.
Well, he wouldn't have the attitude he does if he was born in Hollywood,
or at least I'm saying that he could have been in a different place. Like he could have been in a village that was prospering far away and then ended up there or something. Like, why did he have to be from a different world completely?
I think that might be connected to the idea of how far away the child soldier situation is for most people.
That's what my answer kind of was to that. Yeah. So he's there now in the pendant.
Well, no, just
the pendant.
Yeah. He's LaLaRue over here.
Because you were saying that, like, yeah, I did see that, right? There's something like, oh, is it the alternate future or an alternate universe? And I think that by having it be like, oh, this takes place in a whole nother world, you would assume, but really just takes place in a different like time.
Yeah.
Would be like, oh no, this isn't something that's like another worldly concept.
Mm-hmm. And it deals with, and it's never clearly stated where they're at. You also don't know if it's an isekai that's getting caught up in. Most isekai definitely don't bother explaining, and some of them do, but how people can speak the same language, like Konosuba does. So it's very odd, at least for someone who doesn't know the situation, that everybody kind of looks human and they're all speaking the same language and they all understand each other. So it could be that it's a future. It could be that it's a different world. It's never clearly stated, but I don't think it really is necessary.
Yeah, it's either now and then, and it's in a different timeline, or it's here and there, and it's a different universe.
Oh wow, dude, that's pretty crazy. Did you prepare that, or did you?
Yes.
That's really good.
I've been really thinking about what that title.
I was too.
But I don't know. We'll work with that title a lot as this episode.
And that is really good, dude, because it is kind of like it could be both.
Is it now and then?
Yeah.
Or are we here and that's over there?
Crazy stuff.
Which is which?
So he's there. LaLaRue has this pendant, by the way, and Shu comes in possession of this pendant.
In his ravenous obsession with getting to her. I like that when she's captured by a giant like robot claw, she's just like
I know, she's
just like hitting it a little bit.
Off of me.
Like in the same way you would kind of like let a dog know not to bite when you just like
stop. Just cut it out. She's really
I don't even think it would make a noise. Like I don't think that if you were standing next to her, you would hear a knocking noise.
And we find out why she is that way. And I found her backstory interesting, but I just like where this version of her was just uninteresting to me. I would have loved to see like her before she became this like jaded person that she is now. But
and sure, jade is like a color she has.
Yeah. I meant that on purpose. She's
looking with jade colored eyes.
All right.
I got one more.
More of a blue.
Yeah. Is Jade
Blue
not,
and turquoise, yeah.
Is Jade not
Why would
bluish?
you-
I mean, it's more greenish than
Oh,
bluish.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
You're right, and I try to sneak that by, and I should have known better than to think I could sneak one by old Megs.
Yeah.
It's definitely more of a teal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more of a green.
She's got
Green.
this. She's got
Green.
this. She's got this pendant, and everybody wants it. And they're chasing Shu around to get it. And Shu's running around everywhere. Comes across another character named Nabuka, right? Or Nabuka. Nabuka. And they have a scuffle. I'm just kind of speeding through it because I think that, again, like,
It's more about the themes than it is so much the plot.
Yeah.
Which I think the themes elevate it than the plot would on its own.
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
And he's a child soldier. Nabuka is a child soldier.
Which is where, if you listen to the sub, you get way more of an effect than if you listen to the dub.
And honestly, like, yeah, because they do have more adult voices. But I mean, I didn't really know what was going on with those kids. Like, I was like, are they just like, you know, it was so confusing. Like, they didn't really give a lot of details to what was going
What do you
on.
mean?
Find with the child soldiers. Like, I didn't know they
what
were.
was confusing about it to you?
I just, did they work there? At that point in the story, I was just like,
Oh,
okay.
like in the moment?
Yeah, because I mean,
Oh, in the
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no.
Yeah.
In general,
'Cause I was
you
like-
thought in general, it was
I
like,
just wanted to make
were
sure.
they child soldiers?
If you were confused,
I
didn't
was
wanna
really
make
like,
you
I
feel
think
dumb.
you accidentally skipped an episode.
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
In the moment, yeah.
It was like odd because they are children. One of them is like a borderline toddler who I think
I
in the
know.
dub is voiced by the guy from Ghost Stories.
No, it's a girl. You mean Boo?
Boo.
Boo, yeah, I don't
Reminded me from the voice from the little baby from yeah.
think. Yeah.
Maybe. And these characters, especially Nabuka, is really interesting. And again, a character that I wish we got a little more time
There was
with.
I was more like happy with the way his character wasn't what I assumed it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are definite moments like, oh, and this is when this happens. Oh, it doesn't happen the way you would think it would. And it felt more satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he represents, I feel like, the trait of a child of being just like completely gullible and like blindly following, because his whole thing, you find out later, we'll go into it, but I was like, oh, this is what he represents. Okay, got it. Okay, this is what, like, they all have something. Obviously, they're children, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's super important.
I mean, this series handles really well the complexities of war and how it affects people very differently.
Yeah, what it does is it is like they're really like if you're like wanted to defeat this, it is like you want to kill the king, but like everything in your way is just innocent people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's war in general, where it is just like, you know, that person you're fighting is just a kid who was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not really fighting. The Metro series handles that pretty well. You want to play a emotionally complex video game.
I'll play it.
That's a lie. That's a complete lie. You don't play video games.
Metro Exodus. It's a great story.
Just watch the gameplay.
I'd much rather do that.
I do that.
Everyone does that.
I'll play a game and then I just want to watch it after that.
Yeah, I mean, I from time to time I'll watch a couple cutscenes and
Every now and then.
every now and then and every here and there. So yeah, it's basically that that
Imagine if you don't like words.
Lalaru gets captured.
Crazy.
Lalaru gets captured and Shu gets captured. And Shu saves Nabuka, by the way, which is an important plot point. And then they're both separated and
Hanging
captured
over
for like
like-
3 episodes.
Yeah, and he also drops the pendant.
Well, he had
that
lost did he lose the pendant in that
In that
moment
fight.
or in that fight?
In that
like,
fight, yeah.
it got ripped and then no one noted. Like they just forgot that it happened there or something.
Yeah.
And then
Well, yeah.
I did like kind of like the fight, which was like two just untrained people.
One of them is supposed to be trained. And
Yeah. And he did like, you know, he is doing better, but then the other guy has a stick. And it is just like, yeah, at the end of the day, it is two kids like fighting. They don't even damage each
And
other
it's
that much.
also the style of his fighting too. Like he's like straight up like, okay, I'm coming at you with everything I have, and he's just like, oh, I'm trained for like someone actually who knows how to fight, so he was kind of thrown off by it too.
Which is a real thing. It would be it chess or boxing. You know, they'll say like a new.
Or boxing.
I'm sorry. I know how it sounded. I was like, you sound like you fucking asshole. I was like, no one.
Chess or boxing?
People don't talk like that.
No, it's just a
Fine.
comparison. Go ahead.
It is
continue.
embarrassing. it is like fighting an amateur is like completely different. Like in chess, because you don't like if you play someone who knows how to play chess, you know, like they're doing the Pagliucci maneuver. But someone who's just like doing this, you're like, I have no idea what they're doing, and they could end up surprising you. Same with like if someone doesn't like follow the rules of fighting, you know, you're not ready for them to do this move or even bite.
Yeah, I've always thought that was a little interesting about fighting.
Is you're trained into doing it, and you're like, oh, hey, like literally, people can hate each other. They're like, yeah, you can't pull hair.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you really just throw dirt in someme's eye, I mean,
they're like,
it's fighting.
They're like, oh no.
Yeah, they're like, well, I can't. I mean, if we didn't cover this in class.
Where was the dirt?
Yeah, I missed the
dirt class.
Day, yeah.
Dirt day.
Yeah, dirt day.
And look, and again, like not to continue to like speed through plot, but it's just so that we can get to the more interesting sort of like character moments. But they get captured, and Shu gets put into a cell with another girl who looks a lot like Lalaru, and who he thinks is Lalaru. He also gets tortured, and
yeah, he gets tortured a lot.
Yeah, he gets tortured a lot, and he gets the shit really kicked out of him, and he's still he's not budging.
And that's
he's
when
unchanged.
Because I was like, oh, and now after this, he's gonna be like, we're gonna get out of here. It started to become impressive that he does not change.
Yeah,
and he is still just like, you know. Where's Lalaru? And it's like, dude, come on, man. You have now known that girl you were in a cell with longer than Lalaru.
And we literally, there's a moment later on where she's just like she even questions him, and I was like, you bitch. Do you know what he's gone through to get to this point?
And Sarah is the name of the girl who's in the cell with him. Sarah was abducted. She was mistaken for Lalaru and brought to this world. She was out walking her dog and was abducted and sent to this other world and put in a prison. And that is just the beginning of
one of the most tragically depicted characters.
One of literally, she's just like, why do I deserve this? Like they won't send me home, which was also a crazy thing. They're just like, just leave her. But you find out fucking why.
You find out there is.
Oh my god. Yeah, Sarah. She's American. I was like,
love her.
That's why I was like, hell yeah, this anime rules.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, Sarah.
But speaking of the villains, real quick, where Lalaru is at, we meet the main villain, King Hamdo, and his henchwoman, who Abelia, who is, she is a badass character, and she is a cool character. She's not a very complex character.
I mean, I wouldn't say cool. She is.
I mean,
horrible.
She's a very horrible person, but I mean, she's cool in the sense that, like, yeah, I like her character design. I like her attitude. I like her. Yeah,
she's like
her vibe. You know what I mean? She got a vibe.
She got a bad bitch vibe.
Yeah, she got a bad bitch vibe. Yeah.
She's like the B version of Masato from Neon Genesis.
Totally. But yeah, she is not a good person because she just loves to serve King Hamdo, I guess.
I was under the impression that they like were together or like something must be like bonding them more.
I don't know.
But there were interesting parallels between domestic abuse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But again, she always kind of acts like she's like she's always almost seems like she's had enough, and then she just keeps going.
Well, because he's like, I need you. Like, you know, it's like domestic
which
abuse.
Is the thing where it's like, why doesn't she leave him?
I need you. Like, you're the only one I have. And she's like, you're right, sir. I am the only one.
But she's always kind of, at least to me, it always seems like she's kind of questioning, but just not out loud. She almost kind of does things begrudgingly and will even like question him and say like, and challenge him and be like, if we do this thing right now, it's going to be very bad. And he's like, I don't care. And she's like, all right.
He's like a little kid. He's like a brat. He's a spoiled brat.
Yeah. If you haven't seen a Now and Then Here and There, and you're just here for the conversation, then just look up a clip of King Hamdo because the dub version of him, because he is a baby.
It's crazy.
He whines and cries and he, I mean,
he reminds me of the political leader you don't like.
Yeah, whoever that may be.
I'm just gonna do insert things now.
Insert your own opinion.
Insert the politician you don't like. Hamdo reminds me a lot like that guy. Or that person you don't like in politics.
Yeah, and this voice actor was really trying to work for that paycheck, dude.
I think he was the highlight of the English dub.
Yeah, dude, his performance was freaking phenomenal. Like the first introduction you have to him is him talking to Abelia, and you just hear a cat, and then he just literally like you can hear him kill the cat over what she said about the pendant. And he's like, it's okay. it's fine. I was like, oh my God, did he just fucking murder her? That's when I knew. I was like, oh, because like, you don't really know anything about what's going on. You're like, oh, he's just trying to get Lala-Roo for the pendant. But no, this guy is a bad guy.
And at first, I was kind of on board for like this character. He was saying like, oh, I just need this resource that everyone does need, water, and then we can have peace. I'm like, all right, well, so far that sounds pretty for a brutal dictator. That seems pretty fair.
Yeah, but then,
then you start to see what his world is.
Yeah, then you start to see the world that he's built in Hollywood, which is complete
hell.
Yeah. And
the person with the wooden stick is gonna bring him hell.
Take everybody down.
And that interrogation
There's
scene
a tower.
So. Oh, yeah.
That interrogation scene is cool, though, too, when he just beats the shit out of Shu, just completely just like hit after hit after hit after hit. I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah, and then Abelia, like, she steps in and does it, and the torturer's like, no, that's like all you can do. Like, like he's like done being tortured now.
Yeah, tap out.
Yeah. And you knocked him out, so.
Yeah.
And, Hamdo doesn't want to, like, he's in a position where he can't really kill Shu, and he can't really, obviously he doesn't want to kill Lala-Roo, because Lala-Roo, we find out, because of her pendant, has this ability, and we're still kind of like at this point unclear as to like how this works or who she is, but she has the ability to create water with the help of her pendant. It's like did they call it like a reservoir?
They call it
condensed reservoir or something?
Yeah, so I think it's like a magical, like just infinite resource of water that only she can manipulate. So it's just a little pendant to most people, but she can bring out an infinite supply, or a reservoir's supply.
Yeah, because if it was just the pendant that could do the job, he would have, psyched her out a long time ago. But he needs her.
And
pendant, vice versa.
He can't kill Shu because he needs to find the pendant, and Shu was the last person who had it. So he tortures them both, but ultimately can't really just off like, either one of them.
She was like, I don't know. And he's like, I also don't want to help you, which I was like, yeah, I would not mention that part if I was being tortured.
That's what I like about Shu. He's just like, he says what's on his mind, and he's just like, why would I want to help someone like you?
Yeah, there was parts
and he knows he's going to get his ass beat, and he still says it.
Yeah.
So he has highlights that start coming in as the story goes on.
Yeah.
It's definitely, he's definitely, not like the most standout protagonist.
I just think Shu didn't woo.
Gosh. Yeah, maybe it doesn't fit you.
The shoe doesn't fit. There we go. That was great. So
oh my God.
he makes a promise to Sarah. We're gonna come back to Shu. Shu makes a promise to Sarah in their cell and says like everything's gonna be okay. And she's like, how do you know that? He's like, I can't explain it, but I just have this feeling. Everything's gonna be okay.
That's a pretty good impression.
You do a good job.
Yeah, you do.
And she's like, she believes him. I think, like, she's doubtful, but she's like,
yeah,
I have no other choice.
Cross your heart. Yeah. You promise? Yeah, we're gonna get out of here. And then just never thinks about her again.
Yeah, he's like, now to get to Lala.
Now to get to Lala-Roo.
There was a nice scene where she finds out that he's also from Earth, and I think that's when she's like,
yeah.
And I do think, like, he's the only person in maybe the entire world who would be like, everything's gonna be okay.
I know that.
I know this looks bad, and that's probably definitely something. I was like, and then he's gonna rescue her.
He definitely chooses sides.
He definitely chooses sides, which is crazy.
Yeah, he gets dragged out.
I mean, yeah, and he does like I think he just has no like actual power to like do anything about it though.
Well, yeah.
Well, then don't make promises he can't keep.
Yeah, and then or like even try. He really doesn't try.
Because to me, it almost is worse. Is if you give. I believe that like hope is important, but to give someone hope who didn't have any for it with the possibility of it getting taken away, like does that feel worse? If someone has already kind of said like
that brings up the Pandora's box dilemma.
If someone has already kind of checked out and said like this position I'm in sucks, and you're like no, but there's hope, and then you're like all right, I guess I'll take your word, and then it immediately gets you immediately just get shit on. I don't know. That's a moral dilemma that we can go into
There is,
I don't know when.
you know, I mean,
Maybe.
if we're going into the metaphor aspect of it, yeah. I mean, you would be like, oh, so, like some outsider just going into a situation he does not understand the stakes of and being like, you just have to have faith and no, I don't have a plan and I don't understand the situation.
You know what I
Well,
do?
Oh, sorry.
No,
ahead.
go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, like what he said, he's like, as long as we're alive, you know, we could still, there's still good things. Obviously, there's things that are not good that happen. But I think that did help her in being like, okay, he's not going to save me. I'm going to need to do my own shit and fucking get out of my situation, which she does.
You know what it is for me, though, too? Everybody is entitled to their own opinions and everybody has their own experiences. And some people need religion. I have my own experiences with religion, but it's almost similar to when people are like, when bad stuff's happening, they're like, God has a plan for everything. And it's just like, okay. How does that help me? How does that help me do anything? How does that help me pay my rent? How does that help me stop feeling the way I'm feeling? How does that help me? And they're like, you just gotta believe. And I'm just like,
you just gotta believe it.
Believe it, in the words of Naruto Umazaki. Is that his name?
Uzumaki.
Uzumaki. Sorry, I've never seen it.
Naruto Hukagamake.
But it's
I
the
refuse.
hope. It's the hope that religion gives to people. That's
And I understand it. I'm not trying to take that away from anybody. This is like my personal experience
Yeah.
with religion, and I've always been so
the
frustrated
argument
by
that
that.
hope is enough doesn't sit right with you.
Yeah, like why can't hope is important, and we need to be hopeful, and we need to be optimistic, and we need to like strive to be better as a humanity. But I mean, like there is some level of like realism that needs to exist too, and empathy, and I don't know, to be able to understand that you don't understand is also very important. Anyway, we're this is gonna be a 4-hour podcast.
I'm not shook that you hate Shu so much, but I kind of am a little shook that you hate Shu so much.
It's just like it's
It
frustrating.
makes sense to me now, like because like the metaphor aspect of him, I think doesn't sit right. I do think he is comparable in a metaphor to a missionary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, brought from another world is telling people that they just got to do this and things will be better. And it is like, oh, I can do this. And it's like, that doesn't change what happened.
Yeah.
That doesn't change what's happening right now.
But again, I mean, like Shu's character in general, like Cody said, like he's doing all that he can in those moments. So
Not for Sarah, who he made a promise to.
Not
The
for
most
Sarah,
he
which I
could-
have an issue with Shu about because he just doesn't look back. And it's like the one person on this world that you have a connection with to Earth. You're just like, I'm going to go say Lalaru. So
Yeah.
I just
see what
started-
Lalaru's doing.
I started being like, okay, she has a spell over him. I started thinking that.
That's so crazy. I get why you would think that.
Because
But, I
it
mean,
didn't like it got to the point where I'm like, okay, so something else is happening here,
Yeah.
or there is a thematic importance to it. In regard, I think there's something about like being the metaphor of Lalaru being natural resources.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Because this is like a story of, in a lot of ways, is very heavy-handed in that there are things.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that was like hidden at all.
Oh no. But I just like, for people who for the sake of just explaining it to people who might not know, it's like water is scarce, but it's also telling you like be careful of the things that you use because
And their war machines run off water, so
Everything.
it's like it's this combo of water and oil
Yeah.
from war, which would be, which I don't know what that would. But yeah, there is
I could really talk about like I find myself keep feeling like I have to keep like plowing through the plot just to get to like the interesting kind of bits of like theme and character, but for the sake of just kind of like getting through more of it, so then all of a sudden Shu, because Hamdo tells Abelia to like deal with Shu, so Shu gets like recruited to join their child army. It also doesn't really seem like he's like under that much surveillance, I guess, other than from the other child soldiers.
Yeah, Boo with the gun. I'll shoot you if you move, and
Yeah.
he doesn't shoot him. And then you find out that all of these kids are brought from other places, and they say it so nonchalantly. And
Mhm.
he's just like, "Yeah, we were brought here." And he's like, "What? That's kidnapping. That's not okay." And he's like,
Like,
"Well,
no, that's what happens. They get boys from villages and they tell you like, well, once the war's over, you get to go back home.
yeah, that's what Nabuco's holding on. That's his whole character thing, is he's holding on to that fact of Hamdo's promise to him that he
Yeah.
could go back home after he does all these terrible things.
One of the things I do like seeing in war stories is the you know, like that's what the draft is, you know, and stuff, where it's like they do just get people who are like, oh, you're like just turned into a teenager, you are now going to war. And I just like that sort of getting stressed in stories.
Yeah, and there's another character named Tabul who is the rival character.
Tatul.
Datul.
Yeah.
That's the pattern.
And you know, he seems like a very, you know, this is what I like about the series. Now I'm going to get into some things that I really like and characters I really like, because he does seem on a surface level like he is just a rival character, but he is complex. He is a layered character. He gives Nabuka a hard time for being saved by Shu, and they have a very contentious relationship. And I think it's fine to mention now that you find out the reason why is that because they were both taken from the same village.
You find it to Bull's like motive, like by the end, you know, it is like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of get you a little more. I still hate you,
but
I
he's
now
an ass.
Understand that you were put in this situation and you came to this conclusion,
and I don't blame him.
Yeah, that's the thing. This did a nice job getting me to like understand a character, not blaming them for what they do, and still disliking them.
Yeah, this is what I did like about it, is that it showed you all these things, but it didn't explicitly like say that one thing is better than the other, or one thing was morally better or more right than the other. It was just like, this is what can happen. These are the choices that people feel like they have to make. It wasn't like, this is the right choice, this is the wrong choice.
Yeah.
It never felt like it was presented that way.
Yeah, it was really great. Like the moral gray area of like both kids and their like paths. And I mean, he's just doing it because he wants to go back home. The other kid's like, well, I'm in the situation now, so I'm never going back. Which is
great.
An
Interesting thing, because the bull is like an asshole.
Yeah.
But his motive, like his attitude is like kind of like better than like the Nabisco guy.
Nabisco.
Yeah, Nabucco is struggling with it for the entirety of the series pretty much. And Boo is probably struggling with it even more, who was a younger child soldier. And I think it is ultimately like Boo and Boo's confusion that ends up sort of swaying him or making some sort of dent, because he is still very hard to convince.
Like, I don't think if Boo was there, he would have so much of this like conflict in himself, because he sees himself in Boo and like that, you know, being naive child, not understanding what's going on, and he was in that position. So Boo like keeps him in line a little bit and helps him question like what's actually going on. And then Shu does way more to do that to that character. But
yeah, they're each like in different stages of it, like indoctrination, and that's why the little kid is the one who was like the more open to Shu's like influence.
Yeah. I mean, meanwhile, everybody's like, you know, looking for this pendant. Nobody can find this pendant. And Shu is acting out.
I guess we should talk about the battle that happened.
Well, that's like, I think we're at that point now where they go to that other village, right? Is that what you're talking about?
No,
when they use their like big missile on an approaching enemy.
Well, before that, we see Sarah. Sarah's still chilling in the cell. Shu's out somewhere getting tortured like he always is. And then Nabuka and Boo. Is that right?
Well, that's the thing. Sarah, like, to pick back up where Sarah left off, because there are like three kind of main stories. Is like Sarah, when Shu got dragged out of the cell, Sarah got dragged out of her cell, and she got thrown into a cell with another gross man.
No, not thrown into a cell. It was literally getting led to.
They open the door and they just go get in.
Nabuka and Boo were ordered to send her there by that man or whoever told them, and they're like.
Yeah, and it's very implied, but then found out to be, it's explicitly said later, or implied explicitly later, what happened in that room.
Yeah, I thought it was a tasteful way of depicting it, I guess.
Yeah, there's
you see her later with like ruffled, it's similar in the vibe of like the Berserk scene where you see them with like ruffled clothes and you're like,
you get what happened. Yeah, it's just, but like, just the fact that they led her there and they're like, she's talking to them and they're just like, stop talking, and they're just ordered to do this horrible thing to this girl. It's just like,
yeah, I mean,
do they even know what's happening? Like, does Boo even comprehend what they just did? Like, the repercussions of them, they don't get it.
And even if they do, I mean, I don't think that would necessarily really change things.
Because I guess there's some they never show it, but you find out that they are also not only stealing children, but women as well to breed soldiers.
Yeah. And that's just Sarah's first encounter.
This is Sarah.
And she is like shook, traumatized. She is broken. I mean, and they really show that. I mean, it is not a moment that just happens and we're meant to feel bad for her. I mean, it lingers on her, just like curled on the floor crying. And again, this is why I really connected with Sarah and really wanted her to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think then the battle around this time.
Then the battle.
Where some future tank is approaching, they're shooting. Like, this doesn't do anything. I'm just like, just to fire the ultra beam or whatever it was called, and they're like, but all of our troops.
He's like,
are there.
sir, we have troops in the. I don't care. Just send it. I don't care that if they can't fight for me, then they're worthless. And it's like, okay, sir.
Yeah, I mean, he's just making stupid calls that not even like as a strategist. I mean, I guess like when you frame it in the sense of like, yeah, I mean, in American history, I mean, look at some of the politicians we've had in power.
I mean, you look at any military, like the base of the thing, like, like that's worth the sacrifices.
Yeah,
any military like battle call that is like, that's what Hamdo is doing there.
Yeah.
Like him saying like, if they're not worth, I mean, that is a puppet like that's parroting commanding officers. If they don't not die, if they're not useful to die for me, what do I care? And then
I mean, I just was like, I guess it is. You're right. You're absolutely right. But I mean, I just was just like in awe of like why anybody would listen to him, even if you're a villain or a bad person or you think you're better than anybody. At least come up with a better, and not even to like save their lives necessarily, but you're clearly dwindling your army. It's not even a smart move for you as a villain. Like,
no, well, he doesn't care because he can just go out next week and.
But he can't really, because he's also in a position where
that's
like,
true. And you say,
so like, that's another thing. It's like, if you can just go steal more children away from their villages, then okay, I guess like that's your motive. But like, I don't know.
Which
Amelia
so bad. Constantly points out to him that like, you have crippled our military.
Yes.
So it's not it's not a plot like hole, it is like he is insane.
Yeah. He's
and
absolutely
she is like, well, we can't search for the pendant as well as we could, because most of our soldiers are dead now because he fired that nuke.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that like, because I was like, oh, why would anyone follow him? Because he is promising water. He is promising people to take them back to their villages. He's made so many promises to people. They're like, okay, so I might as well. And they're accepting the situation that they're in because they can't leave. They're going to die.
And I do
just
think,
felt like if enough people banded together, they could take that dude out.
Well, I would say that is correct. And if we were transported into that world, much like Shu, those were the arguments we would be making. And that's why Shu even says like, we can, you don't have to live like this, which because, and that's why I liked him when he started saying like, I'm not crazy, because like the issues with that world you have are right. It is wrong that that's the way things are. But sometimes it'll still be like that though.
Yeah.
It'd still be like that though.
We got to talk about the assassination
Classic.
attempt that was made against Hondo too, which is
I
kind of
wish.
around the time that Shu is in the child army, and these two assassins from a neighboring or nearby-ish village come to assassinate him. Not unsuccessfully. They're both very afraid because the tables turn on them, and Hondo hides under the table.
He's equally afraid.
Yeah,
he's afraid. He's just like, he's always afraid that they're gonna kill him. Everyone's out to get him. Everyone's gonna kill him, and it's just like, yeah, because you have. It's right for people to want to kill you, dude.
Well, yeah,
it's like you're this noble king that does good for everyone. Like there's people out to get you because of what you've done. So.
It was this interesting thing too, and I think he mentioned like the reason you use child soldiers is people are reluctant to kill children.
Yeah.
So it doubles as a like body shield.
I thought about that actually in a battle later. I thought like, as a tactic, what a mind fuck to have.
They point that out too. They're like, they're all children. I was like, yeah, but they're gonna kill.
And they have the children on the front line.
Yeah. So like, we can't use
exactly.
explosives. I mean, those are kids from a village that like we knew.
Exactly.
So it really reduces the ability of like the enemy to fight you. Otherwise, it's like you have to like go to these lengths.
But see, I would have wanted them to explore that more, the complexities of like being in a situation like that, like to see what internally people were having to deal with in those moments, instead of just being like, oh, we can't do anything. Okay, we'll surrender. I mean, it is a complex story, but I mean, in these moments where I would have liked them to like have, or to say more, they were showing a lot, which is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's important to like show people that these are things that are happening. So, but I found myself really curious as to like and I asked myself a lot of questions, like what would I be going through in that situation? I mean, I can't imagine. I can only speculate, but yeah.
I mean, classic child soldier technique Hamdo is using.
Yeah.
Plus, it also means you don't have to wait that long to get new soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you only see adult soldiers like a couple of times.
Yeah. So that happens, and then the assassins flee, and now the child army is in charge of like hunting them down. And this is a very graphic scene as well, where Boo, the littlest one, finds him, and he the assassin takes Boo as a hostage, holds a knife up to his throat, and now Shu and Nabuka are like, Shu's like, don't kill Boo, but also guys, don't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Which I understand, I get. And there's a moment where I think Nabucco just like blasts him, man. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Shu like also like jumps in and like.
Well, he jumps in.
Shu
and
jumps in to clog the wound to
Yeah.
stop to save his life.
I don't know if I mixed the scene up.
I think he is trying to like get him away from Boo, but he's like, don't kill him. Like he keeps saying like, don't kill him, and then Nabucco's like,
I might have mixed.
Yeah, because there's a scene where he's like bleeding out from his chest, and Shu from Nabucco shooting him, and Shu is like trying to stop the bleeding,
and
then Nabucco just blasts him in the head,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just like fuck. yeah. It was graphic, and I really feel the need to one more time, because the comments, just to say that like I understand, and I think it's really important what this story is saying and what it's showing, and I think that it is just its intention a lot of the time feels like it is just trying to show you like this is what war can do and does to people.
I'm trying to think of like if we were like show and tell.
Show and tell.
Well, I was thinking of a version of like show and tell, like now and here. Like what would the second half?
Show and tell. Yeah.
Shoe and
when. I don't know.
We nailed
show
it.
and tell, hide and
seek. But I just want to say that like for me as an audience member, like digesting this story, I would have appreciated just sort of the mental,
depicted a little bit more.
Yeah, and or just really shown like
if you
what people go
replaced
through mentally and emotionally, and
half of the lines of him yelling "La La Rue,"
yes,
and you put all that time into like the characters like just like that, put that like voice acting time into people like expressing themselves a little more, you would have liked it.
I found it less.
I mean, to be fair, that's an episode.
I found Shu and Lala Rue's journey way less interesting than what was actually happening. And I feel like if they would have cut just a little bit less moments of him trying to get to her or them together, it would have made for.
Because I really like the idea of him just getting like drafted into this military in another world and having like, I thought it was gonna like go into like a way different direction.
Yeah.
But that's like I think there's like two stories in this. There is the literal story and the metaphorical story, which the metaphorical story is better than the literal one. I think would be the
yeah. I agree. I agree. They also, the assassin has a tattoo around his wrist, which will be important later. And
what are the people called?
I forget exactly what they're called.
I couldn't tell you.
The
La La Ruse.
No.
The La La Ruse, yeah. So Shu at this point, they're going on another. It's not going to another village to get more child soldiers, since Hamdo has wiped out a lot of them, and now Nabuka and Boo and Tabul and Shu, they all see exactly what happens and what happened to them done to other people. And there's this like shot where Nabuka has to go in and kidnap a kid and like remembers what he felt like.
Yeah, that was an impactful scene for sure.
Yeah, which
just
again, like
all of them.
That is a very powerful moment and a very beautiful scene, a painful scene.
Because he doesn't not do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that like added a lot because normally with that character, he would have turned by now.
Mm-hmm.
But he just like he recognizes that and he goes through it anyway. He's like, I just want to go home.
Yeah. And Shu acts out. He's like, I'm not gonna do this. And he like I think attacks an officer or attempts to attack an officer before Nabucco steps in and
lets all
saves
the
him.
he
lets all the kids
tells
go.
all them to run.
Which I was like, you know what, Shu? If nothing else, you did just save like 30 children.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. Good
And,
for Shu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that was like a spike for me with that character, which was like, you know what? Everything aside, you may have just done way more good than most people could in their entire lives.
And Boo is starting to see some of these things and it's starting to affect him. And because this all happens, like obviously Shu gets thrown into a pit. And
A shit pit,
like a sewer.
Shit pit.
And is bullied by Tabul there.
Yeah, as Tabul, I'm really like, man, you got beaten up like multiple times by these people.
Yeah.
He'll get beaten up and be like, ha, loser. Like, man, you have some self-awareness here.
Yeah, you really gotta unpack your baggage, man.
Like,
Yeah.
I know they did show him like looking over what was happening and him on the car, and he was having a little moment there of like, yeah, this happened to me, but he was like, again, he's got to do what he's got to do to get
that was
to where he wants to go.
Do we see Naboo like directly like grab a child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Tabul does kind of have that moment for a second where he does, and we the audience see that he was taken in the same fashion, but the word indoctrinated, like he is completely indoctrinated, and he is, I think at this point he is starting to reveal that he's like, oh yeah, I don't want to go back. Like I don't care to go back because they keep telling him like, if we just do what we got to do, we'll go home. And he's like, who said I'm going home? I'm staying here. I'm climbing through the ranks. You think I want to go back to living with those peasants? I want to live this life now.
Oh, I think, yeah, just a little bit earlier, there was a scene where because Naboo's like, we're doing all this extra work for this pendant. Shu knows where it is. Let's like get him to tell us where it is. Because no one like believes him that he doesn't know where it is.
Yeah, no one believes him.
And there was, they get caught and there's like this whole like 10 lashings for like doing this. And then like Shu was like given the whip to do it first.
Yeah.
And I do like that she was like, no, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But he could have easily done it because these guys are assholes and they just beat him up.
Yeah.
I do like that he didn't do it.
That was like the moment where I was like, all right, like, now I know like this guy isn't like all talk about his philosophy. Like he really does live by these things.
Yeah.
He says.
Yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't change, and he
'Cause
could have be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it just because I know I might get killed. Like that's a lot of the things that he does. He's like, you could definitely get killed for that or literally beaten up, but he just does it.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy that because then Naboo will still be like when he's in the shit pit, be like, ha, fuck you, and it's like, man, he helped you out so much.
Yeah, but speaking of getting helped out, he does get helped out by a mysterious person. After Tabul leaves, he gets thrown down his stick and like his the clothes he came there in, and he uses it to like climb because he also thinks like Lala Rule. Either Lala Rule is talking to him through the water, or he thinks she's talking to him through the water because there's like water dripping
and it's help me. No, definitely.
Help
I think this is all in his head. This thing of hope of like maybe Lala Rue can get me out of situation or like I don't know.
But the water that's dropping on him that he thinks is talking to him is coming from the pendant.
Just so happens
so
to
it could
be in the
talking
same
to him.
place.
And that was where I felt the same way.
Yeah, I was like, they couldn't have found it a different way, or maybe someone else was hiding it. Maybe even what's his name, like the asshole character that had.
Oh, that's the headcanon you gave it. Yeah.
No, I don't know if it was just like, oh yeah, it ended up at the lowest point of the place, or it like got into the sewage system.
Yeah,
but it was just like, all right, sure.
I don't have a problem with it being there. I have a problem with him also being where it also happened to be. It would make sense that it would be in the sewers.
Can we get part 3 of Sarah's arc here, which.
Oh yeah, Sarah.
Which was
oh my god.
Which was a moment.
Yeah, because
probably the only one I had in like watching this.
Yeah, so she's like, this like other fucking creepy guy, and then she's literally put in with another fucking creepy guy, and then yet again put with another fucking creepy guy, and then she defends herself and she beats the shit out of him and kills him.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't just defend herself; she does the attack first, which I liked.
Yeah,
that note of like he's like distracted. And she just picks up a vase and starts bashing his head.
She murders him too, which is that, and it's like you can tell that this is like, again, like poor Sarah has been put through so much, like this really affects her, like being put in a literal, how she felt, life and death situation where she doesn't want to kill, she doesn't like killing, but she feels like she does not have another choice. And so she like bashes this dude's head in.
And then she dresses up as one of the soldiers, and I was like, yes, run.
Yeah, and goes out, has her moment where she's out and she's like looking out, and she takes all the soldier stuff off, and she's, embarking, and she cuts her hair.
And the moonlight and her wearing white, like all of it was so symbolic, and like, oh God, poor Sarah.
Sarah's
like,
the best.
Sarah's the best character in the whole show, and I was so happy she got out.
Now and then, where is Sarah?
I was never more against Shu than I was when I saw him dealing with Sarah later.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, dude, because that scene to me felt so inappropriate, like how he handled it.
Yeah,
because he's again, he doesn't understand anything, and it's all surface.
I think
it doesn't make sense to him, so he doesn't know how to deal with it, and he's like,
yeah.
That's why it was like, okay, like you are an ignorant kid, but like, yeah, like I'm assuming that like flavored a lot of your opinions on what he does, like before that, because that is like, that's where I am, like on your side, like, dude, shut up.
Yeah,
you don't know what you're talking about. You are like, this is not your choice to make. It was a very weird scene that I was not on board.
And also, like, I could understand if he actually tried to help her at any point after he made his promise, but he didn't at all. He didn't ask about her once.
I'm a guard now. I
he
can
really
walk
didn't.
around.
No, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me go find what Sarah's doing, because I obviously can't find Lala Rue.
Ask about her once.
Once.
Once to give him some credit.
Yeah, he did check in, and they're like, we don't know. He's like, all right.
And then he was like, all right, Lala Rue, exactly.
Lala Rue.
Yeah. Over and over and over again.
And that's why I was just like, you can't chime into this conversation at all, because you easily could have maybe tried to save her with as much enthusiasm as you tried to save Lala Rue, which wasn't really looking for help to begin with.
Or when you found Lala Rue, which is about to happen, maybe just ask her to, pick up someone else on the way out.
I think this is important to mention. Lala Rue, more like blah blah Shu.
Not bad. That
was good.
Megs?
Lala Rue, more like Lala Boo.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah.
These are all very fun, Josh.
Lala Poo.
Okay. You went a little
too true.
highbrow for us there, Josh.
Yeah, sorry. I had to elevate the conversation.
Not relevant.
But so yeah, Shu runs to save Lala Rue. He bashes in this dome where she's being sort of like intimidated, interrogated.
That's where I was
King
thinking
Hamdo.
like there's that, the whole speech about, you just go in and attack. And there was the thing like, okay, like that is definitely what this guy does, even though like it's like, okay, that is who this guy is.
Yeah.
This is when I was like completely out on Lala Rue in general. She was just like, he breaks in, he helps her, and she goes, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
I think he's like thrown off by that too.
I think he was too.
Yeah. This is what I've been beaten up for a pendant I didn't even know I had. What are you doing here?
She's so jaded.
She's so far removed from anything because she's fucking, this mystical being. Like,
and while
the humanity's gone.
Like in the capture of Hamdo, there are like, like scenes that like make me wonder why she acts like that, where, he's like stroking her hair in the camera, like cut away when he approaches her. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if she's also
I don't know. I mean, yes, probably, but also she's been around for a long time, and she's just over humans in general. So I think that it doesn't matter to her.
Yeah. Shu gives her the pendant though, and Lala Rue is able to activate it and floods the entire base with water.
Finally.
Why
didn't you just do that to begin?
Well, she needed the pendant to do it.
Oh, that's true. But when she got back,
So the saving point for her was she did activate it when Shu was in danger. So like at least she was like, okay, like now I'll
use it.
Great.
And she was like, why did you come for me? And his answer, which was, which you asked for my help, which was like, all right, that's a nice moment, Shu. And like, I don't know if she like genuinely didn't understand.
Yeah.
Or if she was just like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're able to escape, and they have to traverse the desert now, and Hamdo is going to, and Abelia tells him that they're going to use the water that that Lalaurie has left in the aftermath. They're going to use it to harness the power of Hollywood and make it return it to its prior glory.
Which was
And I found
airship.
Yeah,
I found the Zari bars. That's
Oh,
what
the
it was.
Zari
bars.
Zari bars. That's
Zari
what he's
bars.
trying. The assassins came from Zari bars, so he's like dead set on going to Zari bars and just slaughtering everyone there.
Which
yeah,
now he can do because he just got all that water.
Yeah.
H2O.
H2O.
More like H2O no.
H2.
There we go.
H2.
They're
Let's go.
in trouble.
Yeah.
H2 let's go.
Yeah.
And oh no for Zari bars.
H2.
They go, they travel the desert. There's creatures in the desert. They find skulls in the desert. They find a bag. There's, this is an interesting chunk. I mean, these sort of Mandalorian-esque creatures that are in this desert are attacking them over and over. And they, have these gourds they find these gourds that are like filled with some sort of explosive. And, it's really, well, the important part here is the conversation that Lalaurie has with Shu on top of one of these rocks, which is that, she's been around for a long time and Shu is asking her, like, how about we take this pendant now that we have it, we go help people, we go give people water. And she's like, I don't care. I don't really want to do that. and that, honestly, I keep having to say my only real problem with this show was Shu. But even though I wasn't in love with Lalaurie, this was a moment where I was like, okay, I was kind of thrown. I was like, okay, let's hear her out. It felt like a real twist to me. We don't know who she is. Why did we assume that she was, someone who wanted to save the world, like Shu did? So when she said that, she's like, yeah, I don't care about these people. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, people need water. And she's like, yeah, I've been around for thousands of years. People need water, but every time I use the pendant, number one, I get weaker and weaker, which was when I started thinking of weathering with you a little bit. And I get weaker and weaker. And number two, she's like, at first they appreciate it. And then when I start pulling back because it's weakening me, they want more. And eventually they all end up going to war.
Yeah, you get addicted to Aqua Cola.
Yeah.
So Mad Max line.
Yeah, Mad Max. I think it's a cool moment because it is shine a light on humanity.
Yes, you will become addicted and resent its absence.
Because we're always it's like, the natural resources thing. Like,
Which, and also like nature doesn't care about.
Yeah.
It doesn't hate you. It also doesn't care.
And I really liked that.
Humans, yeah.
And
definitely.
humans,
Yeah, we don't need to be here.
Yeah.
We're
run.
We're always going to war. Yeah.
It can run by itself. Probably better without us.
Probably.
Definitely better without us.
But they wouldn't have anime and manga.
Oh, that's
Each week,
true.
yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So I that's where I'm like, yeah, like if Lalaurie can appreciate that.
I love, not Lalaurie like as a character, but I love Lalaurie in this moment. Like because
It's not the princess who wants to, now that I have the pendant.
It shifted her from being this damsel in distress to being someone who's just checked out because she had been so just like over and over and over again, just been so let down by everybody that she had met, like humans or whatever these people are.
Probably some dogs.
Yeah, some dogs who really love lapping water up. She's just sort of just like, I don't care. I don't really care. But it's also around this time too that we see a hand in the sand and a mysterious figure kind of with goggles and all these scarves and stuff on come and pull this hand out of the sand, and it's Sarah. And this person sort of drags Sarah off, and Sarah is still alive but has been buried underneath sand. Hamdo is still trying to fix the Hollywood ship and trying to get it to fly again against Albelia's, she's saying it's going to ruin, you're risking damaging the ship even more, and it's going to like freak everybody out. We haven't prepared. We haven't told anybody that we're going to go anywhere and do anything. And he's like, I don't care. Make it fly. He's a madman. And then I want to get to the point now where we get to Shu and Lalaurie making it to Zari bars. Yeah.
Man, if it was Zaribu, that would have been such a solid line, rhyming line there.
And this is another really interesting part of the story, and kind of the third act around it. The third act kind of happens around here.
The safe haven lost village. Things aren't. We've made peace with the way the world is now.
We're just trying to survive. We're just trying to stay out of it. But not everybody. There is people in that village who have been affected by it. And that is where Alamba, who's probably like, as much as he might be portrayed towards the end as being like a bad guy, like he is a victim of circumstance. Like he feels like he might have not made the right choice, but like what other choice did he really have? Like he lost everything.
Yeah, and it's like he definitely like became like made villainous moves by the end of it, but it was like people were telling him just to like move on.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "What do you like?" Which was Shu was like again.
Coming from anybody else, Sis could say that, and I might be like, okay, but coming from Shu, it's like you don't know what you're talking about.
Which was cool that he essentially gives Shu which you'd think maybe Shu would have like picked up from,
yeah.
But he does give him a whole thing like you don't get like what I've been through.
Yeah, just the whole time, like people are trying to tell him stuff, and he always seems to just be going like la 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 Roo. Yeah. But yeah, so.
Oh yeah, I like that. He was like, "This is Laura."
Worst name ever.
Yeah,
I would have rather them done the gag where he's like, "This is Broom Leaf," where they like look around and name people.
A classic Broom Leaf gag.
Or they're just like looking around and name.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting too. That like people knew who she was. Like it wasn't just like a person that Hamdo found, and he's like, "Oh, what's your name?" And she was like.
Yeah.
No, but like she's like she's a known
Zabadoo.
Zabadoo.
But yeah, it was
you
like
can
a known
control
thing.
water.
Oh wow! What are you, some sort of waterbender? I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Also, the village reminded me a lot of how the villages looked in the Time Machine, which is not as irrelevant as it might seem because that takes place in the future. And the way the village is set up by like, where you show the village and there's like a river at the bottom and they live inside the cliffs.
What were those creatures called though? Because they lived in caves too. Right?
Morlocks?
I think you're right. It sounds right.
It's Morlock. Yeah. Morlons, Morlocks, something like that.
Yeah.
And then the people were called.
Who knows? Future people. Food. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
I don't know if that's a reference or if also that's just how people live if like on caves.
It was smart,
Cliffside,
it's a way to like kind of, it's a rocky terrain that a lot of like military vehicles would have trouble sort of navigating.
Or like even seeing over.
Yeah. They're kind of also hiding.
Yeah.
If you destroy the bridges, you have now removed their access to half of your like area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which also to the point of hiding, it is revealed kind of that they are hiding because of what happens later, but they get there, Shu gets there, Lalaru get there, they meet Sis. Sis is this like kind older woman who's tough, stands up for her family, has a bunch of kids, most of which I assume kind of come from, some maybe are her own, but some are
yeah, I was under the impression that they were all like orphans.
Yeah, it was like a foster.
Yeah, because one of them, Soon, is a girl whose father went missing, who was like part of this rebellion, and she every day wants him to come home, and he never comes home. And Sis and she were having a conversation, and Sis is like, I wish Soon would like get over it because like he would have come back by now. Like he's probably dead. Like, and she asks him like, wait, you're from Hollywood, right? Like, have you seen anybody, or would do you know anything? And we have a flashback to her describing 2 tattoos on his wrist, which is the same guy who he was trying to save, who was literally trying to plug his wound, and then he got shot in the head. And so now, like, Shu's weird towards Soon because she's like, is Dad coming home today? And he's like, maybe, I don't know. And it's heartbreaking. But she was just Shu to me. And Sis I like a lot.
I like Sis a lot.
It's interesting how she'll like get hit, and it is like you could probably take that guy in that fight too.
Yeah, Sis looks jacked.
Yeah, Sis is no joke. She's dope.
Hamdo, Abelia are getting the ship ready. It's flying, and it is moving towards Zaribaris because there was a deserter that entered Zaribaris from Hollywood. And this deserter is saying like, Hamdo's out of his mind. He's a madman, which we believe because we've seen him be a madman the entire
show. It's completely true what he said.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I kind of believed the guy. And then you find out that this guy like has like a transponder on his shoe, and it sends a signal to Hollywood letting them know where Zari Baris is, and then they're on their way to come infiltrate it.
And during this time, we meet Sarah again.
Yeah, guess who walks in the front door?
Guess who walks in the front door? Obviously, Sis saved her, and she walks in and sees Lala Rue and is just like, this bitch is dead right now.
I love that scene.
That was so powerful. Like, all of my miseries because of you. Because
and which
of
she
you.
doesn't care about.
No. Because she doesn't know.
Exactly. And
She doesn't
Lala Rue's
know.
like, okay.
Yeah, like, I don't know what you want me to say. And it's like, that scene was,
Anything.
ugh.
Say anything.
No, she doesn't.
So Sarah just beats the shit
Out of her.
Which
Hell
I was
yeah,
like,
dude.
you get her, Sarah.
Go, Sarah.
Yeah. Go off, queen.
Go off, dude. Do your thing. And she does. And then there's this whole argument and she runs off. And the whole time, like, so just to, stay on track, Hollywood's on their way. This guy who is like, who we thought was a deserter, who was just like an infiltrator sent there to spy on them, like goes to Sarah, like
which we
has some sort of affinity. Is he the guy that gave her her handkerchief back in the cell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the guy that gave her the handkerchief back, and then she ended up going to his room.
Oh,
there was 3 different people. Like the first guy was just in the darkness or whatever, and then she went to his room and he was like, "What's your name?" And he kept trying to ask her name, and then who knows what happened after that.
He's a weird dude. He gave me weird vibes.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to.
It's like
I'm pretty sure it's implied that he also did those things with her.
Yeah, he has a redeeming moment, sort of at the end. But yeah, exactly. He was giving me weird vibes because he goes to her and he warns her. He's like, "Hollywood's on their way. You got to get out of here." And she's like, "Who are you? I don't believe you. You're lying." And he's like, "I'm not lying." And she's like, "Also, don't touch me." And she's like trying to get away. And she has this like moment in this talk with Shu when they're like on the cliff or on this rock, and she's explaining to him like that you left me, you promised, and look what happened. And again, I don't agree with Shu at all. He gives her this point. He's like, "But you're still alive, right? And as long as you got life, things are gonna get better."
Yeah, it definitely came over like, shut up.
Yeah.
Shu.
Yes. And I thought this was kind of this turn in like Sarah that I kind of respected again. Like, I love when you can show me a character's journey. And if I would have just been introduced to this version of her, I'd be like, oh, Sarah's, she's kind of mean.
Mm-hmm.
But like seeing everything she's gone through, I'm like, no, like, do you, Sarah? Like, I would be meaner.
Exactly.
She should have beat up Shu.
Yes.
She should have just started, beat up all the main characters.
Yeah. And, she has this moment where she's like, I'm not going to keep her away from me. I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to look at her. And that's just how it's going to be. She also has, how does she get injured again? Like, why does she need to see the doctor?
Oh, she passes out from what they think.
Right.
Think is her being overworked.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it's because she's like having an anxiety attack, I'm assuming.
Well, it's something else. We'll get
that
to
too,
that point. I didn't want to like gloss over what that guy, like, who, like he had his reasons for like.
Oh yeah, his monologue.
Oh yeah, because I think we're in that territory.
We're right. Yeah, we're right there.
I want to make sure we touch on it because I think that was one of the highlights of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But before we get there, I think we just find out that Sarah is pregnant because the doctor, and I think that's where she finds out.
Too, yeah,
because I think that's why she passed out was like I don't know how
stress.
Pregnancy works, but stress and overworked, which for a normal like person wouldn't have been overworking, but for someone who's pregnant, it was.
Yeah, and she's also a child.
And they're talking about it because they think she's asleep, and then she hears it and just starts crying.
That was
the doctor is like
heart wrenching.
I recommend doing this, and the sis is like, but it's her call. The
doctor's like, I recommend aborting that thing.
I mean, it's very like, it's totally like pro-choice. Like for the time, 1999, I was like, this is awesome.
It
like,
was. And then
guess Shu showed up. Yeah. But I think before that is when this moment with this speech that happens, because like Shu is out and about and he's talking to Alamba, and Alamba this whole time that Shu's been there is like, you're from Hollywood. I'm going to use you for information. Like, I'm going to use you for information so that we can infiltrate and get some sort of game plan because the inner workings of their system.
Which he doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't.
He doesn't retain any information.
Yeah, he does at least know where entrances are, where locations are, and is like, you have the most information out of anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's like, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to help you because you're going to go there and you're going to kill people.
And it's just a cycle of killing people, and don't you learn?
And it's like this thing of like, I mean, but the cycle really does end here with Hamdo and his child slave army.
Yeah, literally kill him, and then we can, try to move on from this.
Yeah, we're never led into there being any higher chain of command. And as a matter of fact, at the end, it's revealed that there is no higher chain of command. You take out Hamdo, that's it. Other people, sure, over time might try to, humans do what humans do, or whoever, people do what people do. I don't even know if these people are humans, to be honest, but I don't know where they're at in the future in a different world. But either way, that seems to be their nature. So, but at least there will be peace and lives will be saved in the meantime.
Yeah.
Children will be
doesn't
saved.
Care about it. He's like, no more killing.
This is what, he makes all these points in his speech. Like, you find out that his whole village was pillaged from Hamdo. It was not a funny little rhyme. It did rhyme, but it is sad.
Okay, but there can be light in the darkness, and that's what a pun in the middle of this.
I couldn't agree more.
And I get that war will always beget more war. That war isn't always the answer to war. Like that there needs to be like a dialogue. There needs to be.
Yeah.
Now, Josh, would you say that war? Megan, jump in here. War never changes. Is that something?
Yeah, something I would say.
Is that
something that is said in the anime? Yeah.
Is that's an opinion you hold on the?
That's what. Didn't they say that in the anime?
No, it's a Fallout reference.
From Fallout. But yeah, Megan, you
got him.
I didn't want to interrupt you with the village pillaging.
Oh, no, thinking like village pillage. His sister died a horrible death. They're taking her for not to be a soldier, but to have children soldiers. And she was too sickly, and he was the only one to take care of her. And they just dumped her. They pretty much just dumped her. You have no use to us. And then he finds her, and it's just like this. This gut-wrenching speech about how he finds her and how he hopes she didn't suffer because like she was eaten, and it's just like horrible.
And he was like, all I could do was pray she was dead by the time the animals got to her. That's all I could hope for.
Yeah, because he couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and it was like, I get this guy's entire process
vengeance.
Now.
Yeah,
and then she was just like, but you're still alive.
But you're still alive as long as you have life. And I'm like, Shu, shut the fuck up. But not now. Yeah, not now, Shu. But yeah, this is where I really think this story for me worked. And it was like its strongest moments were like in these character moments of like struggle and just finding out the complexities. Like everything is not black and white. Like we need to have a conversation, and it was showing me a perspective that, because Shu says a line that is like semi-insightful, where he's like, what Hamdo's doing is bad. Killing child slaves, all the yada, yada, yada. What Alamba wants to do to Hamdo is bad. But what's been done to him is bad. But why do I feel like they're the same? They're the same thing. They're the same amount of bad. Or not the same amount of bad, but they're both equally wrong, or something. Is that
that they're being treated like that, or you think that?
No, Shu says that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. She was like, they're both bad. One is bad. Blah 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 blah. But they're both wrong. And it's like that was an interesting thought. That was like an interesting like thesis. Like, okay, now that we have this, let's break this down. Let's explore that. Let's explore why you can't just seek revenge, and why, even though these horrible things happen to you, why you can't just like resort to violence. Let's explore that. Let's talk about that. Let's not just say we're alive and just that's it.
Which I agree with, but also like we were saying, you kill Hondo, you stop all this madness. Mm-hmm. It's not like a chain. There's not like 3 armies that you have to defeat before you can finally get to where you need to get to. It's only one person. And half of the people that are there are stolen and want to go home. Yeah. And it's like, Shu, I get, I get the complexities of, being morally right, but it's like, this is not the time for that.
Shu, that is a great philosophical question. Mm-hmm. But but for these people, it is not a philosophical question.
It's life or death.
Yes.
Which if a part
I would love to ponder it from the luxury of my world.
that
Yeah,
you're going to just go back to, by the way.
yeah.
And you kind of know like you're gonna go back home.
Yeah. So yes and no. It's just like,
but
I get for the sake of the argument of what's morally right and wrong, and they're both bad. Killing's bad, both ends. But it's like,
killing a bad person is worse than killing children.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's too like political,
uh-huh.
but I will say I think there are people that it is better to kill than not. You could also take him to jail. You could arrest him and sentence him to the death sentence. I don't know if that makes it better for you.
For life in jail for 300 years. You know how they do that sometimes? They're like, you got life times 2. Or
I like that.
We got you twice.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, there's no way you're gonna ever get out.
And the guy's like, what, twice?
Twice?
You got me twice?
Damn.
I was really banking on the second one.
Not to linger here too long because this episode's gone on for a bit already, but there is another moment that is also like another frustrating Shu moment after this, where like Sarah wakes up and is like, I don't want to be here. I was walking my dog. I am pregnant. I've been, assaulted. I've been abused. I've been left for dead. All these things. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm out. And so she goes to this like place, this cave where they have water or the village's supply of water. And I guess she's planning on like drowning herself. Mm-hmm. And Shu follows her. And this is what I absolutely did not.
This is a scene that lost me on Shu
100%.
Completely.
Because not only
I didn't.
It just shows no empathy, dude. Like he has no empathy. No one should take their own life. Of course not. But he's not even bothering to like hear what she's gone through. He's not bothering to like try to understand how she's feeling. He's like literally forcing himself on someone who is feeling the way she's feeling because she's been forced. Like people have forced themselves on her. So when she's like fighting him off, like stop. Like he is a man. I'll be a young man, but it's like grabbing her and like pulling her. And it's like, how triggering is that for her?
I don't even, I don't even know if he even realizes what happened.
He doesn't care to find
He doesn't.
out. He doesn't ask.
Yeah.
But he knows about the
pregnancy, so he can put pieces together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, does he think that like, oh, she like wanted to do that? Or
I don't know. I mean, he just doesn't comprehend what is happening with her. He just understands that she doesn't want to live anymore, and that's out of the question.
And then she had a great, because like, okay, it's like, okay, that I think that is like, you don't kill yourself over this. Mm-hmm. That was like a solid Shu moment. Even though it's like, all right, you're an innocent kid. You don't get what you're doing is definitely not the way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then he, and then she like has this whole speech like, I can't do the things I want to do with my life like this.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Or ever. Like, this is it. This is, if I'm going to stay in this world, I don't want to be here. I can't just get isekai'd back out, I guess. It's too late now. Like.
Yeah. And then he's like telling her like, again, like, you have to.
Who wants to say it?
Well, it's like Shu can't make this choice for her. The choice of like whether she's going to keep the baby or not. I understand that it's also because she starts banging her stomach and he puts his hand in. And I really thought about this and I was like, okay, yes, it is like her choice. But I'm trying to like at least rationalize, or how I'm rationalizing what Shu did is like, yeah, she might not be in the best mental state at that moment to make that call right then and there. She might end up doing something that she regrets. But if she is in a better place later and wants to abort the baby, like she should be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But of course, with Shu, it's just black and white. It's like, let's have, things are just not that simple as much as I don't even know if I would like them to be, but I mean, like, they're just not. Like, and Shu just showed like no grace at all.
He's like, I don't get what you're going through, but you can't do this. That you can give that kid is that's your second chance.
I'm like, I would have rather have had Shu not in that equation and had Sis be in that.
Oh
scene.
Yeah, wow.
Ooh.
Wouldn't that have been more? Because they have a moment later on when you find out what happens with Sis, and that was like a touching moment, sure. But that would have been such a better scene with Sis, and that it could have gone way better than what it did with Shu. Shu did not need to have that moment with Sarah because he really didn't deserve to, because he really didn't help her out at all.
He didn't do anything. She saved herself.
Dug her out of the sand.
And Sarah saved herself from the base.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's a whole nother moment, Ilamba starts acting out, and he starts like, because there's this whole thing about like they find out who Lalaru is, and she was like, "We're gonna leave." So
you're saying Wawa Rora is Lalaru?
Who would have
the guy that the person the guy keeps accidentally calling Lalaru?
Yeah, all the time.
She looks very odd.
Yeah,
and you have like moments with Sis and her, but it's just like again.
Yeah,
she's finding humanity and is
and she's like, you got to protect your children. She is like Mother Earth in a sense, right? Lalaru is. But so they say they're gonna leave, and Sis and Lalaru are having that moment, and Ilamba's acting out, and he's like, kidnapping. He finds out who Lalaru is and has her, and like shoots Sis in the leg, and then like strings her up in the
using her as an example for anyone that's gonna disobey what he has to say, pretty much, because she's kind of like well regarded in the community.
Yeah, because he thinks now he's got the peace, this like perfect negotiation tactic piece that he can like with Lalaru. They're safe because all he has to do is offer her to them,
which is
or at least hold her hostage.
How good that speech was, because he has a character that I like tied up and shot.
Yeah.
He then shoots another character who just wanted
a doctor.
Probably the only doctor who was the only one who could have safely done the procedure.
I know.
And I'm like, oh, this guy sucks, but I get why this happened.
A testament to great writing, and
that was rough.
A great and a layered character. But they, Hollywood really they arrive. And
they don't send someone down to talk about negotiations.
No, shocking. And Hamda finds out that Lalaru is there, and he's just like, "Yes, this is absolutely perfect. I get to kill everyone here and get Lalaru back."
And he gets her because Ilamba tries to take her hostage. That does not work. She gets taken right away. And what?
Yeah, but before that, right? Or no, as they're getting her, they call off the orders to pillage all the kids because the kids are hiding. All the sisters' kids are hiding, and then Shu goes to save them and help them out. And then we get the scene with Nabuka and Boo and what was the little girl's name again? Soon, yeah. And that was rough. That was rough on so many different levels, honestly.
Yeah, because Boo gets axed or shot, and
because she soon finds out that Nabuka killed her dad.
Yeah,
because he's saying it out loud.
Yeah,
he's
literally what matters if I kill another? I killed that guy with the tattoos.
I had to. I have to do this. And Boo at this point like puts down his gun. He's just like, I can't do this anymore.
I thought that was interesting because like before that, when Shu escapes and like Nabu or what is it?
Nabuka.
Tabul or
Nabuka,
yeah.
The guy you would assume would take the turn.
Yeah.
And he's like, join me. Like we can like escape together. And like he doesn't take that offer, and he says like, I'm gonna save you by just not saying I know where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were like, oh, normally that character would have taken that opportunity. And you see him later, and he is not. He's even still just like that. I'm doing this so I can go home.
He is conflicted, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Tabul, reveals. I think once they do, get taken back to the ship, Tabul reveals like, that village that we were in, that we had that whole kind of the village that Shu attacked the higher ranking officer in. He's like, yeah, when we were leaving, I saw him planting bombs. And they blew that city up, that village up, and they did the same thing to ours. Like you can't be an idiot about this. Like you can't be emotional about this. Like there is no village, and even if there was, like this is just what I'm choosing to do. And like you said, the word indoctrinated. He's like fully indoctrinated. And
then he's like,
yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna like take over.
Yeah,
which is like,
yeah. I mean, you have a goal.
Yeah. As opposed to like, what we do.
Yeah. Oh my God, that scene. I just want to talk about scene when like Nabuka's just like on the floor, and then he let that shot of seeing like Boo put on his shoes. Like I literally was bawling my eyes out. Like that scene, like when Boo died, I was like crying. But that scene, it was so short, and just like he's back into talking to Tabul, and it's just like.
Yeah, Boo, by the way, is the one that gave Shu his stuff back.
Yeah.
He gave him his stick. And his like nice denim jacket.
Yeah. And Boo, you're right. Nabuka is just like after killing Boo. I mean, he's affected by it, and you could see it. And this is a great character too, a complex, layered character too. But in that moment, he's like, "All right, well, we're soldiers, so we can't like sit here and mourn. Like we got to go back." So Shu and Lalaru get taken back, and there's this like final showdown, final shoodown. And, of course, Lalaru, basically Lalaru just ends up like, using her ability. And
I was like, okay, good. It's like, you've lived thousands of years. You're weak as shit, probably. I mean, she used all of her power for that, but she kind of realized like, oh, I do have some type of faith in humanity because of Shu and because of what Sis taught me. And, I get that there's good people and there's bad people, and I'm going to help the good people.
When she causes like the flood, I thought like, oh my God, is she going to just kill everyone?
Everyone. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
It stops, right? She is like a water bender. She can like stop the flow at like a very specific point. But I was like, oh wow, like is she just gonna like, oh, is that nature is like doesn't like it can't tell the difference?
Yeah.
She does. She does stop. Some people are able to be saved, like the kids and Sarah,
but then they just get taken too.
Yeah, they end up all surviving. She doesn't wipe them all out.
Yeah.
But Hamdo got finally, and actually, a lot of people do end up surviving, but Hamdo dies.
Yes. And Sis died, and she made her final wish that Sarah doesn't hate the baby.
Yeah.
I don't know if she like also wished that she kept. If she kept it.
Oh yeah, she wanted her to keep it for sure.
Which I think that's a manipulative way of having your dying wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I have such a weird memory. But if we had more time, I'd go into it. But it's gonna be tangential. So yeah,
it's been a long discussion.
Yeah,
it's a lot to talk about.
There's stuff going on. Yeah.
So there's this nice moment where they're sitting on the top of the tower or top of the Heliwood.
Shu snapped in the final episode, and he finally started to actually like do stuff, and that's when I was like, all right, Shu, and then he bashes Hamdo with his stick, which was like, yep, that is how he fights, with that stick.
Yeah.
And you get Hamdo like shrieking and crying, and it is like,
that was great.
Yeah. Finally,
I love that. And he's calling for freaking Abelia, and
who
she's
he
not
shot.
coming. Yeah, who he shot.
But not like he shot too
accidentally, but like uncaringly.
He didn't care about her life, and you kind of realized that too. And she was like,
she kind of just like walks off.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, I'm done.
That was a great.
You could pick up the gun and kill. She's like, I'm.
I mean, what a ironic way to die. You drowned.
Yeah, and he saw her. She saw him just like floating and like
great,
past his window.
Great.
And then there's a sweet moment when they're on the top of Heliwood, and they're like, he's got his arm around her, I think, and she's like, they're having this like talk discussion about like what you said, Megan, that not all people are bad, and that she's decided to help the good, and she sort of fades away, and they just kind of all band together. Everybody who's left. And Sarah decides to stay, which is a really, powerful moment for Sarah. She's taking ownership. She decided, whether because of what Sis said or whatever, she decided she's going to keep the baby, and she's going to be a mother to the kids that Sis left behind. And, Sarah, again, is just the most interesting character. And they rally together, and then they all send Shu back to his world. And then it just ends. Like, Shu doesn't we don't get to see Shu carry anything he learned.
He carries his kendo bag back home.
Yeah.
I was expecting a shot of him like, now he's better at kendo at least.
No.
I thought it was like, oh yeah, well, I've experienced war, now I'm better at this. Here's me like meeting back with my family. Like, were they worried about me?
Yeah.
But war's over. Story's over.
War's over. Story's over.
Let's go home.
Who's to say what happens when you go home?
I just want to make sure that I didn't miss much, and then I want to leave a little bit of time, even though we've been going on, just to kind of like hear your guys' final thoughts, because I really want to hear what you guys have to say if you feel like you haven't said anything yet. But as to the plot vehicle statement, like, yes, Shu did feel like a plot vehicle a lot of the time, and he was a frustrating protagonist. I understand why he was that, and I feel like he was probably intentionally that. But he did feel like he weighed the story down a little bit, especially coming from a place where he had not gone through anything that these other characters had gone through. What gave him the right to say these things and tell these people these things? And, not that you have to have gone through things to help people, but the fact that he also never seemed to like hear them out or empathize with them. He just sort of blindly kept repeating this same mantra over and over and over.
Which, when you take it as the metaphor of him being an interfering outsider,
Yeah.
I mean, it works for that. Because again, the story is he just leaves.
Yeah.
He doesn't deal with the fallout of any of this.
Yeah.
No.
And I mean, to the point, I mean, he did influence some people. Maybe it was a little too late. Because, like, again, like, Nabucco dies, helping him.
Yeah.
And, he did influence, thoughts on people because he was an outsider, because he didn't live this life. And he's just repeating this mantra, maybe to other people, maybe to himself, to make him feel better. But I did, as much as he was that type of character, I did find it refreshing and different that it just him being him in this world, and then he gets to go home. Like, you don't get to see that, like, nothing really changed.
Yeah, where there was he was telling everybody how to live, and then got to go back to a life of no consequence.
The metaphor is fantastic.
I mean, sure.
Add the literal character, you are like, you should have. I would have liked to have seen him, like, being like, maybe I can't just yell at people and tell them, like, that, they should be happy when I haven't, I got smacked around.
Yeah, I got beat around.
Ultimately, I do feel like this was a very important series that dealt with a lot of very sensitive subject matter, and I think it handled all of it really, really well. I mean, outside of my issues with Shu, and I know I harped on him a lot, but I mean, like, he was just such a big part of the series. He's the main character, and whether it's an allegory or not, like, or whether he is, supposed to be like a stand-in for, this metaphor, this mantra, this like way of living. I mean, it's just like he was at the forefront, and ultimately it was like the other characters, Sarah, Nabucco, even Sis, Alamba, that I thought were so much more interesting, and I would have loved to see more of them. It was too much Shu. And honestly, a little, I don't know if it was a little too much Lalaurie, but I mean, it just like, there were just so many more interesting characters, and I wish we could have spent more time with them. Outside of that, I mean, I do think that this is a series that if you haven't seen and you've stuck with us through this whole conversation, I mean, you should check it out. I mean, it is a very sad, and very, I think, beautifully told story in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll go second, like, for final thoughts, because I think Megan had like a whole thing.
No, I basically talked about it at the episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is an example of why, I like anime and manga, because, I get to see this story being told in this way, and it is a pretty unique way of telling it. Yeah. There are a lot of, it's not a story's fault if I want something to happen. So, like, if I say, like, I would have liked Shu to do, that's not the story's fault.
Yeah.
And it is like, I have not, Shu annoyed me with how, like, naive he was, but I mean, that has to be, the point.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the last little bullet point I have, I was just looking over to see if I kind of said what I wanted to say. But the last bullet point I have is like, all over, I don't hate the series. I just felt like it left me wanting more from its characters. Its message was ultimately hopeful, but at times it felt like the plot also relied on like coincidence. The story in the series didn't bother me, but for me personally, I just would have liked the themes to be explored more and for more characters to have been focused on. And I do think you should watch it. I do think you should, even looking into the history that could have inspired it, while horrible and devastating, I mean, I think is interesting and can serve as a lesson in just getting out of your bubble and just the idea why he had to be isekai. Going back to it is because, like, things outside of your world, like horrible things can be happening. And
he was literally people in a bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
He went back to his bubble, by the way, at the end.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, yeah, just, to be, empathetic and to just, I don't know. Just, I like its message that there could always be hope, and that violence begets more violence. I loved its message. I really just think that Shu, for me personally, kind of bogged it down. But
there was a something that just reminded me of Fire Punch, where they talk about how the sun is dying. Lalaurie does, because she lives for thousands of years, so it seems more of like a real, when you find out that they're like, oh, the sun's gonna explode in 40,000 quintillion years, and you're like, what? No.
Yeah.
And you're like, I mean, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be long gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's gonna, well, we will be in space by then. Like that's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, literally don't have time to cover all the themes and all the things. I mean, because it's the thing of like the Mother Nature thing, the Weathering with You stuff that we wanted to talk about, which, we'll save or you can kind of see for yourself, and the limited resources thing. I mean, it is doing and saying a lot. And I think that we could talk for hours.
Yeah,
about,
we literally could. Yes, we have.
We literally have.
We have, and we're still doing it.
Yeah.
But
we're now and then.
If I've never heard the series before. I had never come up my radar, and I'm glad that I watched it because it is, very thought provoking through the whole series. And I do like what they did with isekai in general because you just see fantasy type settings. I rarely see like apocalyptic or like, this type of world in an isekai. So I think it's really interesting. And the music's beautiful, by the way. The OST, I didn't even mention. There's a certain song, I forget what it's called, but it's the main theme that they play like, pretty repetitively. But it is so like moving, and it's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, you should check it out if you haven't already. But if you have, let us know what you thought about it. Let us know how you felt about the series overall, how you felt about Shu, how you...
and I would say if I lived in a hellscape world and I had the ability to teleport to a world that wasn't that, I would just go there instead of taking people to mine.
You would just go to that world instead of taking people to your world?
If I lived in Hollywood and I was like, we had the ability to go to other like worlds or timelines, so what we should...
Oh, yeah, we should all just go, with where she went.
Yeah.
Why
did she not do that sooner? Yeah.
Didn't think about that.
I mean, they were doing that to find Lala Roo because she kind of was...
You had that technology, yeah.
Going all over the place, I guess. I don't know how many...
They look like humans.
Sarahs they freaking stole before they're like, wait, Lala Roo has blue hair.
Yeah, I got that wrong. But let us know what you thought about the series if you've seen it already. Let us know how you feel. Let us know what it means to you. Let us know what you thought of our discussion about it. But that's going to do it for another episode of Volume 1. It's been a long one, but thank you if you're still here for sticking to the very end. Before we go, we have to shout out and thank, of course, our beautiful, wonderful, amazing Patreon members. Yay! You guys are the absolute best. We love every single one of you guys, and we appreciate your support. It really does mean the world to us, and we love and appreciate you guys from the very bottom of our hearts. Mm-hmm. And we appreciate you also no matter how you choose to show your support, even if it's just by liking, clicking, commenting, subscribing, no matter how you choose to do it. We really, really, really appreciate you guys. You guys are the absolute best. You guys are you guys are the
pendant that we need to fill our lives with.
There's a fountain of water in our deserts.
The fountain that runneth over with love.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But thank you for watching another episode. Thank you for listening to another episode. The only thing left to do now is to get out of here on our outro that is always the same and never changes, which today should be now and then here we go. Or now and then there we went. Or,
I like the first one better, but if we want to, I don't know if we can improve.
Or Megan, do you have any pitches?
Ham, go watch this anime.
So I'll add that to the list.
Okay. Lala, who wouldn't want to watch this anime?
Oh, you want to go?
We'll go with yours.
So is it now and then?
Now and then, here we go.
Now and then, here we go. Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time,
now and then, and here we go.
Now and then.
Eat some more.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Eat some more.
Is that
Oyasumi.
Oyasumi. Oh, yeah, that was a beautiful idea.